I think we need to take away first person POV, and I think we need to take away enemies to lovers from authors until they remember the meaning of words. She's been the special with special magical powers, and that means that she can do anything, allegedly. So why, when we haven't talked about the limits of fucking magic, are we now being like, oh, I can't do that by myself? Why? Explain it. I want to know. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and this is Shelby Reads, where we talk about sapphic books all day, every day, all year round. I'm a femme for butch lesbian who has been with my wonderful butch wife for almost 13 years now, but almost married for 6. Yay us, it's coming around the corner. Before we get started, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear about more sapphic books. And if you like me ranting about some really bad books. You don't have to be a lesbian to be here. You don't. Today we're going to be talking about Cursed by Malignant Magic by Jenesis St. Clare. It is the 7th book in the Once Upon a Time series, which is written by many different authors. They don't seem to be connected in any way that I can tell. And this is an adult fantasy book. Also, I know I said that Collateral Damage would be the video for this week. It will probably be next week. I not only had like this awful work thing that I don't normally have to do, but it's also just 60 chapters and almost 600 pages. It's a long book. Please be patient with me. I promise it's coming. I promise. Here is the synopsis for Cursed by Malignant Magic. In a war-torn world of magic and power struggles, Kali, a young and mischievous battle mage, finds herself caught between the demands of her commanding officer, General Ihuna, and her own rebellious nature. Blessed or cursed with a unique magical ability and a sharp tongue, Kali constantly tests the limits of her authority, much to Ihuna's exasperation. Thrust into the heart of an escalating conflict, Kali must navigate the treacherous politics of the royal court, the prejudices of the noble-born guards, and the looming threat of a powerful malignant magic that could consume them all. As she is forced to confront her own past and the mysteries surrounding her origins, Kali must decide whether to embrace her role as a soldier or forge her own path, even if it means defying those she has sworn to protect. In this captivating fantasy adventure, the reader is drawn into a world where magic is both a gift and a curse, and the line between duty and personal freedom is razor thin. Cursed by Malignant Magic promises a thrilling journey filled with intrigue, action, and the struggles of a young mage determined to carve out her own destiny. For fans of magic study, The Unbroken, and The Jasmine Throne, this sapphic romance is book 7 in the Once Upon a Curse series. Sorry, it wasn't Once Upon a Time, it was Once Upon a Curse. That's my bad. How could I not have realized? You know how we roll here. I'm gonna do some disclaimers and some trigger warnings. Trigger warnings! These trigger warnings are provided by Storygraph, but I will update them as necessary. There are not that many reviews of this book. On Storygraph, there's 21 reviews and it sits at a 3.32. I'm about to ruin that score when I post my review. So the triggers are confinement, death, sexual content, blood, grief, war, injury, and injury detail. My added triggers, which I may have to pop in and add some more because I'm halfway when I'm starting recording, includes kidnapping, torture, and war crimes. Editing Shelby here. I would like to also add animal cruelty, animal death, cursing, alcohol, vomit, murder, grief, suicide. It's at least mentioned, just so you know, it's not actual. I would also add police brutality, blood, and physical abuse, just so you guys know. Okay? Okay, bye. Yay. All right, my disclaimers really quick. This review is not for authors or stands of this author's work. Reviews are for readers. If you like this book a lot, you will not like what I have to say, okay? But no work is above critique and review, so. This review will contain spoilers. I go chapter by chapter through these books. So if you really do want to read this, please just keep that in mind. Number 3, I'm not bashing sapphic books. If the straights are allowed to get on here and talk about all the bad books they have, then I'm allowed to do the same. Number 4, this is an indie author. Just because I hated this book doesn't mean that you will. If this sounds right up your alley, consider trying it, but I'm going to give you a recommendation for now because I like to do that when it's indie author stuff. I promise I'm not singling out indie authors. It just kind of happens the way that it is. I think that we need to talk about at some point that like the barrier for entry for indie authors is very, very not difficult to get over because you can just hit publish at this point now. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and I do understand that like a lot of indie authors have limited means of creating things, like maybe they can't afford an editor, maybe they can't afford certain things. However, I do think that you might want to consider saving some money and even just hiring like a contractor, because some of these lately have just been atrocious. They're not well written. And honestly, there are a lot of books that end up being traditionally published because of book talk that I think are also really bad. I'm just putting it out there. But for an indie book that I really enjoyed Love Charade by Allie McDermid. This was a really cute, just like contemporary romance, and I had gotten it on the same kind of book list that I get a lot of these from, and I wasn't having high hopes or expectations, but it really blew me away. I really loved it. I thought it was really fun and sweet. I gave this one 5 out of 5, I think. I'm pretty sure. Let me check. Forgive me. I gave this book a 4.75 out of 5 on Storygraph. I really, truly enjoyed this book. All right, let's get to it. I will just say one thing. It's that I love the cover. I think it is very beautiful. I think they did a fantastic job with it. I really love the purple and the gold. Like, there's no notes for me on the illustration. It came out very nice. That's unfortunately pretty much where my compliments for this book end. So also, I would just like to bring up that I am 52% into this book at the point of starting to record this. Not much from the synopsis has happened, and yet so much has happened and yet nothing at all. So we will get to it. Okay, this book makes me furious, and that's why I'm starting before I've even finished it, is because I'm so angry. So angry. So let's go. We start the way that I always love to start, which is we start in first person POV with a character I can tell is going to be one of the most annoying protagonists alive. Taunting the Caputo Royal Guard was a good way to get a blast of magic in the face, but here I was, pushing their buttons as always. How could I resist? They hated me, and I considered most of them to be pampered nobles who just wanted to lord their status and their limited power over anyone they considered beneath them. As someone who had been powerless once, I considered it my civic duty to make them as angry as possible whenever I could. Considering my temperament and smart mouth, it wasn't difficult. You all know that I hate defending authority, but this girl is just like a dick immediately. You don't have anything better to do than this? Mind you, this is my first impression of this character, and I was immediately hating her. Also, I have a serious question about so many things about the structure of this world as a fantasy. Number one, why are nobles guards?
What the hell are you talking about?
Nobles would not need to be guards to exercise their authority or their power over regular working class people. So I don't understand where she's getting this idea from. Now, if perhaps the idea was like it's the second or third son of like these powerful nobles or something, or daughter, whomever, and they are just trying to lord their own perceived superiority over other people, that would be different, but that's not what she said. She said that they are nobles. That's weird. Why would a noble ever work if they didn't have to? Genuinely asking. But this whole interaction amuses her, at least, so at least we have that. We learn through this confrontation with these guards who she's annoying, which by the way is at like the gate to somewhere restricted. We're gonna come back to this. You better bet your bottom dollar that she is a battle mage who is significantly younger than most other battle mages. I think we're supposed to take that she's like a prodigy from this. The guards ask her what her orders are, and she says, I can't remember, but I know I'm supposed to be here in front of this restricted area. They say not even General Ahuna's pet is allowed back here, and they tell her to go. This is literally their job. So we then learn something that is immediately contradictory to the first paragraph, which says that guards can't do magic, and that's why they are on the front lines. So number one, she literally said in the first paragraph, they want to lord their status and their limited power over anyone who they consider beneath them. But right before that is, it's a good way of getting a blast of magic to the face. So if they can't do magic, how are they giving you a blast of magic to the face? It's not possible. It's so contradictory. Nobody edited this, I fear. Ugh. Also, like, you don't just need like an editor for grammar. Like, there's not really a lot of grammar stuff that made me really mad in this one, but you should, especially when you're making like a fantasy world, potentially consult an editor for developmental editing reasons. That would have helped a lot of this stuff. What you really need is someone like me with undiagnosed autism to just sit there and pick apart your book and be like, so hey, you're contradicting yourself all over the place. That's what you really need, okay? Also, I don't know why we need to know that they're not on the battlefield. Number one, I know they're not. because they have a job and it's here. Because being a soldier and being a guard are two completely different fucking jobs. Also, being a soldier is supposed to be important to this story, but is it? We're gonna go over it. She says that I'm named after a dog. You shouldn't be surprised if I'm somebody's pet. Because her name's Collie. We're gonna get there. Not everybody is meant to be a stand-up comedian. Also, as someone named after a car, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop. Knock it off immediately. So she thinks that it's better to be somebody's pet than to be a poor sap of a guard who will never see the front lines. It's also better to be a pet than to have to deal with people like her. Now that I think we can fucking agree with. Yeah, I think these jobs must be torture and they deserve a lot of a raise because they have to deal with this bitch every day. Also, can we like learn why she has this worldview about guards? Why does she think so little about them even though they are simply doing their job and preventing her from going into a restricted area? And also they probably don't even get paid that much. They're probably working class even though she's adamant that they're nobles. Do we learn why? No, not so far, not at 52% of the way. I'm gonna be recording the rest tomorrow, so we will be getting there, okay? General Ihuna is now on the other side of the gate, and she does not look happy about this interaction in the slightest. She doesn't seem very happy to see Collie, but I wouldn't be very happy either. Although judging by the look on General Ihuna's face right now as she approached from the other side of the gates, she wasn't overly happy for me to be her pet. Not furious, but with the kind of resigned irritation that I had grown used to. Honestly, what had she expected having pulled me from the streets and trained me? I did what she said and I owed her my life, but there was only so much I could do about my natural disposition. I think she expected you to act like a soldier. Like, this kind of shit would not fly in a regular military, so I truly don't understand why it flies in this one, and we're going to be talking more about this later. Now, honestly, the most I know about the military is from Reads with Rachel or from movies, but like, even I know that she would not last. And again, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. They exchanged some banter with the general being like, I should have known I couldn't trust you to just be good and wait here. And Collie is agreeing with her and the gate opens, yada, yada, yada. As I mentioned, the guards didn't have magic, but that didn't mean they were unprotected. Battle mages like me had imbued their staffs with lightning, and I spoke from experience when I said that lightning packed a hell of a punch. I even had the scars to prove it. So, when you say, as I mentioned before, who are you mentioning it to?
Who are you talking to right now?
I don't understand the way a lot of this is written because it's not a diary, it's not letters. Who are you mentioning it to? Why are we breaking the fourth wall and why are we acting like an anime character? Let me know. Collie follows the general inside and we learn why she's not on the front lines despite the fact that she obviously thinks the only valid job is to be on the front lines. Technically, a battle mage like me should have been on the front lines with everyone else because we so desperately needed more people for this war. But no one could stop General Ihuna from calling back a soldier, especially when it came to a little gremlin like me who loved to cause chaos. When I tell you I wanted to tap out so bad, I never DNF books. Never. But I was so close with this book. And I don't even think I paid any money for this. I think that somehow still makes it really offensive to me. There is more banter. General Ihuna tries to scold her, but Collie is so annoying that this doesn't work. The general grabs the back of her neck because while Collie wouldn't intentionally walk away from her, she has a habit of getting distracted because she's just so quirky and different. They're now going through a market which is fucking confusing. Why would only high mages be allowed at the market? Why is there a market allegedly in this restricted area? It's like the author completely forgot what the point of the fucking gate was. And it's not like it was the gates to the outside of the city, so I don't understand. We learn very vaguely what they look like. The general has her sigils on her face painted very nicely and very beautifully, but Collie's are very shoddy because she had been barely able to afford a drunk battle mage doing them when she was a child. So if it's paint, why does this matter? Because it's clearly like permanent. Like, I can tell based on the text it's supposed to be permanent, but like, why would you call it paint? I don't understand what the fuck we're doing. It's not explained in any way. We learn that our main character Collie has these like black markings, but they glow when she's using magic. I think they're purpley, I don't remember. And she also has streaks of silver in her hair. Do these people ever get tired of writing the same characters? The amount of characters I've seen with some kind of silver in their hair in books lately is absolutely absurd. Unless it's an old person, I'm now bored. I don't want to hear it. The general is very big and can manhandle her if necessary, but as she's a black woman and the main character is white, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It feels a little icky, but throughout this book I will continue to read critically and we will come to a conclusion at some point. So partway through their little walk, Collie lifts her nose to the air and starts sniffing the air. This will be important. So Collie basically can smell magic, which is a very uncommon ability, and so she's always sniffing around. This will not just be her and it will come up. It is unsettling. There's so much sniffing in books lately and I'm like, can we think less maybe about some of the smelling? I don't understand. Like sometimes what things smell like is important. In this, overall, I don't find it that important. We'll get to it. The general is all like, I know you're hungry, but we're busy. She's like, it's not that, like, it's not food that I'm smelling. They're supposed to be going to like some kind of important war meeting. So the general asks if she's sure about smelling magic and she's like, I'm sure. I was the only human who could smell magic as far as I knew, and much more accurate than any dog could ever be. Hence the reason why half-feral little me was allowed to run roughshod in the military. I was useful and right now I shook with anticipation. How useful can you be when you're not actually anywhere near the fighting? I just want to know. And just asking. The general's like, we have a meeting, and Collie's like, say it's my fault, it's fine. They, being whichever important military folk Huna was taking me to meet. Most everyone as high ranking as a Huna thought I was a terrible soldier, which I was, and hated me. If I were to be blamed, I might as well get to track down the magic I could smell that hummed in my bones, that called to my own magic. I shoved it down with something verging on panic. Okay, so let's keep in mind that she said she's a soldier. We need to remember this for later. Okay. So the general asks if she can tell if it's her magic and Collie's like, I can't, no, like, you know that. I can't differentiate where the magic is from. So this also seems like magic is pretty widely used in this book and a lot of people seem to be able to use it. So I don't really understand how useful this power can be to smell magic when you can't tell whose magic it is. Like you have to investigate every single instance of magic, so that really doesn't make any sense. The entire magic system doesn't make any sense. She says that it smells weird, like it's been bottled. Do we learn more about bottled magic? Is it like liquid? Is it like whatever? No, not really. We just learn that it's like, it's not uncommon, but it's rare enough that it would warrant attention. So I don't really understand how it can be uncommon and it's rare enough to garner attention. Which is it? It says magic was so rare that it was constantly in use, so the fact that it had sat long enough to smell musty to me seems suspicious. Now, if magic is rare, which we're gonna go through this book and you're gonna learn it's fucking not. There's magic all over the fucking place. Why and how is it in use constantly? Who is providing the magic if magic is rare, if there's not actually that many magic users? And if you're saying that it's connected to the military, which I don't believe it is based on this entire thing, why are people able to use magic constantly when the military is not all in the same place because there's a war going on? It's like if you took away the electricity stuff, you know, like we burn coal a lot to make electricity, some is windmills, what have you. We took away most of that. We then say it's rare. And then you're like, but people are running their electricity all the time. How? If there's not enough resources, it doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm so sick of it. The general says, go find it. Yay! I whooped, grinning widely. Despite the seriousness of the situation, I was more excited than anything else. I wasn't good at much, but I was better than anyone else at this. Better than any dog, and no one could do what I did. Ahuna was the closest thing I had to family, and I wanted to show her that I was useful, that I was good at this one thing at least. Hey. So I was talking to my wife about this book. We're gonna have a quick I'm gonna set that aside and we're gonna have a quick break for a second. So I was talking to my wife about this book and I think there are two things that this book has firmly convinced me of. I think we need to take away first person POV, and I think we need to take away enemies to lovers from authors until they remember the meaning of words. Just because this is in first person does not mean that you have to tell us everything and show us basically nothing. You could have showed me that she's desperate for General Ahuna's approval, but instead you just tell me 7 bajillion times. And I also, just while we're taking a break, want to talk about the fucking audacity to compare this to The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke and The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. You have some serious balls on you, lady, and I'm gonna say it. And you want to know why? Because those books are fucking masterpieces. Masterpieces. Especially The Magic of the Lost trilogy by C.L. Clarke, of which The Unbroken is the first one. I don't want to hear that shit from you. C.L. Clarke understands how military works, how you should describe magic, how you should do politics. You understand none of those fucking things. And it shows. It shows. So like, I don't ever want you to say either of those authors' names or works ever again. In case you can't tell, this book pisses me the fuck off. We're back. So she pushes through a bustling crowd. I just want to reference again that this was supposed to be a restricted area. Why is there a crowd? Because it's not a restricted area. What the fuck are we talking about? And she's following the trail like one of those, you know, in animation where there's like a pie, like a steaming pie, and they follow it like a freaking like they float in the air. That's what she's sort of doing. She's not actually floating, but that's what it feels like. She gets so like excited by the amount of magic that she kind of like peels off from where the General Ahuna is and just like leaves her behind. This is a terrible idea. Terrible strategy, whatever. She says that she slows to a cautious walk, but nothing about this has been cautious, and she will never be cautious again, so we're not gonna fucking... Oh, I thought this video would be easy, but I'm so angry. I'm so angry inside. All right, I still have to finish half of this book. The book is a nightmare. When she gets to the building that has the magical signature, she's like, something's wrong, I can feel it in my bones. Well, good, I'm glad your bones can feel it then. The door is cracked open, which I feel should kind of be a gigantic red fucking flag, but according to her, it's not. Like, she's like, I'm gonna go through it. She's like, I shouldn't, but I'm gonna, because even though she says that she's cautious and that she understands things, and this author is desperately trying to convince you that this character is intelligent, she's not intelligent. She's not in the slightest. She's probably one of the dumbest characters I've ever read in a long time. All right. With that in mind, I was obviously going inside, but Ahuna would already be furious with me for taking off without her. She would flay me alive if I just walked into what was so obviously a trap. So instead, I slammed my elbow into one of the windows, then boosted myself through it into the obvious trap. If you're watching this, you might want to grab a beer. Like, I don't like beer, but like, grab a drink, have an edible, do something, because I wish I was doing all of those. Chapter 2. We're only on chapter 2. She's climbing on through the window and she's like, well, if anyone was inside, they definitely heard me smash the window. And I'm like, yeah, you dumb bitch. Like, A mass of wooden barrels stood stacked in the center of the building in a haphazard pyramid. Glass jars of magic sat on top, glowing a sickly yellow green. And my heart sank when I saw the fuses curling on the floor, dipping into the jars. Now that I was closer, the burning charred mix of the smoldering fuses and rotting wood tempered the overwhelming smell of magic. It was obviously a trap. It was so clearly set up. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This much magic would cause a big enough explosion to level the whole market. And yet someone had waited for me to come as if they wanted me to see this mess or put a stop to it. Or perhaps not, I wheezed as a wire tightened around my throat from behind me, leaving me scrambling for air. I wish this other character would kill her. Does it happen? No. I was also talking to my wife last night and I was like, you know what I want to do? Like, I was reading this book actively and I was actively dying. I was fucking miserable. I was like, I'm gonna write a book where the beginning is, it seems like you're gonna have a protagonist like this who's the most annoying person alive, and then I'm gonna kill them off immediately because I'm sick of it. It's satire. So she puts her hand under the wire, which is really stupid. That's a great way, I'm pretty sure, to get your fingers chopped off. She yanks harder, it doesn't work. She's like, okay, I give up trying to pull away for now. She's like, I have one last hope, magic. And I'm like, you didn't think to use magic first? You're the one who's always talking about magic, huh? A burst of magic flashed and they cried out, but the burning, acrid scent filling my nostrils warned me that I had made a critical mistake. My magic had ignited the fuses on the ground rather than merely one of them burning. Every short fuse was now aflame. Dumb bitch. Also, what is a blast of magic? So I think we all know that in literature, there's overwhelmingly kind of like types of magic. And I'm not saying that it has to be so specific that you can like dissect what kind of crazy, like dinosaurs, right? There's like a genus that like a ton of dinosaurs are in, and then you get down to many subcategories of dinosaur until you get a specific dinosaur, right? I'm not even saying you need it to be like the most specific dinosaur no one's ever heard of. I'm simply saying, why are you just saying a blast of magic? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that do? And like it's not specified that it's fire or like lightning or whatever. So how did the fuses get lit? Is magic by itself just enough to ignite things? We never fucking go over it enough. Never go over it enough. The attacker is still trying to drag her away with them. She is able to get the wire to slip free. It's always some emergency in New Hampshire, in my area. I don't know why. Too late. I was out of time. I flung my magic up and out, creating a shield, but not for myself. I was made of magic in a way people should not be. If anyone had a chance of surviving a blast of magic as large as this one, it would be me. Why do you think that? We have not really any evidence supporting that. Why do you think that? I don't know. Do we learn about like anything she's done during the war that would make it so that this is true? No, because what does her past matter at all? She drops to the ground and she's like determined to try and protect the villagers from this explosion, which I guess is nice of her. If only she could have died in the explosion. It explodes. It's like a deafening explosion. Hooray! By the way, for the magic system, for people, this is gonna come up, I will bring it up more, but they have gauntlets that allegedly contain magic. How is it made? How is it produced? I don't know. I hope we find out. But the gauntlet cracks, so that's not great for her, or so you think. We're gonna get there. The stone in my gauntlet cracked, veins webbing across the surface as the magic overloaded it. Pain seared through my palms as the light filled my body, and my scream burned in my throat. It felt like my bones were burning, the magic incinerating me from the inside out as I fought to contain it. Anyway, she gets knocked out during the explosion, so it goes black, and then we're on to chapter 3. Yay! So our girl Collie wakes up. She's in some kind of wagon. She's kind of thinking like, oh, the general's in the front. She's not. She's just been through an explosion, so she's obviously discombobulated. It's very painful. I wish it was more painful so she would shut up. Finally, the sensation of the extra magic that she kind of absorbed, maybe? It's unclear to me. Yeah, that's dissipating finally. Oh wait, no, I'm wrong. See, I read part of this while I was high, and I remembered most of it completely and utterly correctly, just so everyone is aware. No, she is in a wagon, and Ahuna is in the front seat, apparently driving the wagon. Collie is in horrific pain though, and the general's kind of like, stop that, knock it off, stop trying to move around. I was lucky not to have died from overloading my own magic before, and this, being caught in an explosion of magic, the likes of which I had never seen before, I was lucky I hadn't leveled the city. I'm not entirely sure why you did it. Level the city. I'm not entirely sure how you were hurt by the explosion through the shield, but like, it's not explained. The general pushes her back down and is like, knock it off. Stop. Collie is not satisfied. She asks, what's happening? Where am I? She does not answer her at all. And now she's like in horrible pain again from, I don't know, the magic. It's very fucking unclear. The magic is so wishy-washy. I wish there had been none, because like it can apparently do all kinds of crazy shit, but not enough. And in other instances, it's very we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. It's fine. The general is like, well, you just got knocked down in the explosion a little bit, but you should be fine. I had to go to the front lines, so I'm taking you with me. Now, I don't really understand why she would do this when she was basically at this point a useless, unconscious body. There's no good reason, and we don't know enough about their relationship except that the general saved her when she was a kid in, like, I'm assuming like a similar problematic magical incident. But like, I don't know enough about them to believe that she's like, yeah, I'm gonna risk things by bringing an unconscious person who may or may not be useful. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. But Collie disagrees, and we're about to read the paragraph about why she disagrees. The fact that she had brought me with her made some sense as well. I was too useful to leave behind, which I would have appreciated more if every hole in the road the wagon drove over didn't make my head pound in time with my heartbeat. Again, we do not know how sniffing magic is actually all that helpful overall because she cannot differentiate whose is whose. So if she's on the battlefield, she clearly won't have the specificity to know what is their magic, what's the enemy's magic, what is the point of bringing her. She thinks to herself that when she's hurting less, she will no doubt be very grateful that the general brought her, but like, okay, you say so. It meant something, and it eased my fear that everyone who cared for me would leave me behind like so many had before. I'm at 52% of the book again. I would like to remind you, when did people leave her? I don't know, because her past is not very incidental to the story. Just so you know, in case you thought you were gonna get any kind of lore that would make this main character make sense, we're barely getting any, and it's 52% of the way in when I'm starting recording this. Ugh. So Collie's like, what are we gonna do when we get there? Ahuna is like, I'm going to a meeting and you are going to rest. You're gonna rest in the barracks before you get back onto the field, all right? And Collie's going to argue with her, and she's like, no, I want assurances from medical professionals that you are able to go out and do stuff on the battlefield. No doubt I had taken in a serious amount of magic in the process of trying to stop that explosion in the middle of the market, so it made perfect sense that my body would react poorly to it. I, most likely, had entirely too much magic in my body right now, and the only reason that I was still alive and not overdosing on magic was because of my unique abilities. Ahuna didn't know about those. No one did, and that couldn't change. If I was examined in too much detail, the healer might notice something was off. I couldn't allow that, but at the moment, I didn't have a plan to stop it. So you might be asking what her ability is, and the other ability is that she can use magic without gauntlets. Why? I don't know. What is it about magic when it's naturally occurring in your body versus when you have gauntlets? I also don't know. It seems like the magic kind of like overflows in her body, and she has a hard time controlling it in a lot of circumstances, which we will bring up again. If I stop every time we have a problem with this book though, we're never gonna make it through. So I gotta try and be less upset about it. Again, like, it's not like her ability is explained as absorbing magic also, but apparently she can do that, but there can be too much, and I don't understand how it all fucking works together. I don't. She gets sent to the barracks with a guard to escort her there when they reach the barracks. She wanted to make sure I did what I was told, and I tried to. I really did. I even managed to stay in the room allotted for me for several hours, dividing my time between pacing back and forth and trying to sleep. Again, how someone who cannot follow directions this poorly, like, she's so bad at following directions, there's no way they let you stay in the military. The magic is also like too much, so she's like, I can't do what I'm told even if I wanted to because it's bothering me. It's like, it's clearly not bothering you that much. The magic does all the heavy lifting in this story, and yet it still doesn't make sense. I had plenty of excuses for why I felt the need to do it, ranging from the knowledge that I had almost died from something similar and I should check it out to make sure that no one else was in danger, all the way to realizing that the guard outside my door had wandered away and left me unguarded. If ever there had been a sign that the gods wanted me to do something, it was this right now. Besides, I was curious. Not everything is a sign that affirms you doing whatever you wanted to do. Also, gods? Is there a religion in this book, in this fantasy book? Not one that I can parse out. Again, 52% of the way in, couldn't tell you what the religion is, who are the gods, how does the religion affect things, including the military. Nothing, crickets, nothing. I feel like we barely learned the reason for the war too. So we're just gonna get there. We're gonna rant about it when we get there. So she sneaks out to follow some magic again. That's the crux of this, right? She's following the tug toward the magic. It was also easy, and it didn't occur to me that perhaps it was too easy. Not until I saw the source of the magic. My throat closed, horror shivering through my bones as I tilted my head back to look at the massive monster in the sky. I'd been so bored back in the room that I had never considered I might wish that I'd stayed there, but that was the only thing I was thinking right now. That and the obvious. I should definitely run. Are you guys hoping that this was a dragon? It's not, which is good because I'm glad that we're not bastardizing dragons too. Here we go. So it is a huge, gigantic bird circling in the sky. And to make this actually interesting and to make me get through this, I'm gonna pretend that it's not a bird and that it looks like Quetzalcoatlus, which is one of my greatest fears of all time. Have you seen those bitches? I hate them. By the way, they're not dinosaurs, they're like reptiles. They're flying reptiles. I hate them. They're like perfect size to eat people. Did you know that on their like wing nubs that they can run at 25 miles an hour? 25. They can fly at like 80 miles an hour. I am glad that they're extinct. I am not glad that dinosaurs are extinct. I think that they're cute, but every pterosaur, it's on site. It's on site. Anywho, this is a Quetzalcoatlus now. The talons are as long as her arms, which is like very long, right? Okay. We'll believe you for, it's fantasy, we'll believe you for the sake of the story, okay? Apparently these Quetzalcoatlus have talons. You heard it here first. She's staring into the eyes of this dangerous creature. I thought we were gonna run. So much for being smart, huh? Also, the talons drip with dark, sticky liquid. Ew. And she's like, it's really dangerous if this liquid is what I think it is. I'm like, are you gonna tell us what liquid you think it is? Why is there liquid? She's like edging backwards, trying not to like make a sound or whatever. This isn't Jurassic Park and their T-Rex that was dumbed down for some fucking reason, okay? Why do I keep talking about dinosaurs? It's one of my special interests, and I'm also really mad about the Jurassic Park movies this week. If you want to rant, maybe someday. I haven't read the book, so that might be the only straight book we ever do on this channel. I don't know. Unfortunately, it was too little too late. The bird had already seen me. Its massive eyes with slit pupils like a snake's narrowed, and whatever was in its claws fell to the ground. Yeah, well, the bird's come to get her. So this is when we learn that she can use magic without gauntlets, because she's like, thankfully she didn't take off my gauntlets in my sleep or whatever, but I can actually do magic without them, but no one's allowed to know about that. And I'm like, why? Number one, you would think that you'd want to make yourself as useful as possible to this military. You're annoying, so you would think that you'd want to get in with even like the higher ups, but no, she just keeps this a secret, and I don't know why. She believes that like General Ahuna is her family, so I don't understand why she hasn't told her. At least she's told nobody. Why? Never explained. At least, again, we're 52% of the way in. This book is not very long. You should be explaining to me why you're doing things, but the author can't, because the author can't remember what she said from one paragraph to the next. She then turns around and does like a full sprint, so I'm not really sure what all the information about magic was for, because we're clearly not using magic on the bird right this second, are we? No. I highly doubted that one person, especially that one person being me, could defeat a monster like this. Why? We don't know the limits of your magic. You're apparently more magicier than everybody else. Why can't you defeat a giant bird? We don't understand how the magic works, so maybe if I understood how the fucking magic worked, I'd be like, oh yeah, she can't win. But I have no reason to think that she can't win when this entire fucking book she's been the special. She's been the special with special magical powers, and that means that she can do anything, allegedly. So why, when we haven't talked about the limits of fucking magic, are we now being like, oh, I can't do that by myself? Why? Explain it. I want to know. She's running away. Okay, finally a half mile from the camp, I realized my mistake. I would not make it back there in time. I hadn't realized how far I'd traveled while following the tug of magic, but it was far enough that I couldn't run it at a full tilt, even with adrenaline giving me a burst of energy. Yeah, she's a dumbass. She doesn't plan for anything. She just is very impulsive, and there is a way to like write a character like this, and this is not it. She's trying to convince me that she's incredibly smart and the special while simultaneously proving repeatedly that she's an idiot, that she's a moron, that she can't plan for anything. It just gets worse as the book goes on. We just gotta get through so that we can like keep complaining about other parts of this book. Don't think you guys want like a 4-hour long video about this, but if I have to suffer, so should you, my lovely 102 followers. Thank you guys, by the way. She knows that like even if she gets close enough to the camp, like people might not notice her. They might notice the huge bird that is the size of a mountain. I know what a hyperbole is. This is still ridiculous. Flight hadn't helped me, so it was time to try fight. Well, I mean, it's not attacking you. It's not winning, I don't think. So because you weren't fighting, and I mean, you're probably not gonna make it to the camp in time, but like, it has been helping you. It hasn't caught you. Whatever. My gauntlets hummed with energy as I tried to unleash their power, but somehow the abundance of magic within me hindered my abilities, caused them to fail. Disappointed curses escaped my lips as I watched the stones fade into dullness. In that brief moment of distraction, the monstrous bird snatched my wrist in its powerful talons and lifted me high into the air with ease, its wings beating against the sky. So that's all it took. Also, again, I don't have a problem with like the idea of magic being like too much that it's overloading some stuff, right? Like a shorted circuit, right? Like when there's too much electricity and then suddenly nothing works anymore. I'm not against that. I just feel that there isn't enough explanation of literally anything. So like, I don't care. And I just have so many questions. Like turning into Reads with Rachel, I think so. I love her channel, by the way. One of my inspos. Hope she watches me someday. Speaking of, I'm friends with Weirdo Book Club on TikTok now. I've made it. So it's taking her higher and higher. Can you take me higher? She's like, well, with no magic, I'm as good as being this thing's meal. And I'm like, well, if it's as big as you say it is, if it's a true Quetzalcoatlus, why didn't it just eat you? Do we ever think of that? No. I mean, you could be taken and torn up for some baby birds, but again, there's no evidence. Like, I have to do this the old-fashioned way. She has a tiny knife, so we're gonna try that. But this bitch is a literal dumbass, as we've established, and she tries to stab the talons. So, okay, lesson for everybody really quick, okay? So birds, or Quetzalcoatlus, the beautiful reptile, whatever. They're not, but birds are not that different from people in a lot of aspects. So what a lot of people don't think about, or like, I guess this author didn't fucking think about it in the slightest, is that nails on, I'm not gonna say all because there's so many species of animal that it's kind of impossible to say this definitively, but on like most animal species I know about, claws, talons, also beaks on birds are made of keratin. And this bird is literally allegedly the size of a mountain. So obviously like a tiny knife, you might be able to crack the keratin a bit, but you're not gonna do very much damage. You're not gonna get very far. However, we're acting like talons are made of stone in this text, and they're not. And unless you establish that by telling us that they have stone claws or whatever, because they are fucking magical. A magical species. That's not a regular bird. We're just gonna be like, oh, number one, this bitch is weak because she can't even chip some keratin. Number two, how did you think that was gonna release you when there's some fleshy bits attached to the talon, you dumbass? One last try, I reeled back and slashed the blade as hard as I could upward, catching the bottom of the bird's leg. Whatever nearly indestructible material made up its claws, the same was not true of its leg. My knife slashed through, but the bird didn't so much as squawk. Yeah, because if it's the size of a mountain that's like getting a splinter, bitch is so stupid. Also, again, like keratin can be tough. Like we have it for a reason on our nails and on like animal claws, like dogs and cats. It's also keratin, but it's not indestructible. So again, if it's not keratin, you might have to think about that a little bit. But the grip just tightens on her for now because obviously this is doing nothing. Panic surged through my veins as I struggled against the powerful creature trying to break free from its grasp. With every passing moment, my chances of survival seemed slimmer and slimmer. Had I mentioned that I was an idiot? It took me a terrifyingly short amount of time to realize my mistake. True, being held in the air by a massive bird was a very good way to die, but being let go by said bird while still in the air, also a good way to die. Yeah, that's the other part of this situation I wanted to talk about. So if it is, in fact, the size of a mountain, or we're just gonna go Quetzalcoatlus size, right? And it brings you uppity up, and drops you. Are you going to survive that? Probably no, but she's a fucking idiot. She thinks she's indestructible, and the author never allows you to like contradict this. I hate it here. I never gave much thought to how exactly I would die, but I spared a moment's thought for Ahuna, who would be furious that I had disobeyed her orders and now I would die because of it. If there was an afterlife, she would never let me hear the end of it. My heart pounded against my chest as I plummeted towards the ground, helpless and at the mercy of gravity. So we also go from her trying to break free to this without an explanation of how she was dropped. So we care more about the general who's not here's feelings than we care about how the events are happening, which there is room and time to care about both if we cut out most of her inane thoughts. She's frantically trying to reach to her magic because her survival instincts are taking over, and we already established her magic was not working. Wasn't working. Okay, so each gauntlet can do a thing. One is for like shielding, one is for I think attack or whatever. Again, I don't understand how the gauntlets work. I don't understand what the magic does. I don't understand why homegrown magic is totally different than gauntlets. I don't understand if she can do the things that she can with the gauntlets without the gauntlets. I don't know any of these answers. So just infuriating. But anyway, she's using the one that makes shields, or she's trying to anyway, because she's trying to save herself from being shattered on the impact of the ground. So I'm going to tell you something really quick. Okay, so we're going to talk about science. Okay, more science, I know. But okay, if you're in a car, right? And you crash into something, let's for the sake of this make it a giant fucking rock, right? And you were going a certain speed that you were accelerating and you did not have any way of slowing down and you hit the fucking rock, right? If you die in the car, is it because your body, pretend you're buckled in for a second, hits the rock? Or would you be saved because the car hit the rock, not you? I don't know how to fucking break this to you, but when your body stops when you hit something, but you were going a speed at which you were hitting something, it doesn't matter that she herself didn't hit the rock in the analogy that the car hit, because her body is still going the force of said car when it stopped. So you can still die, obviously. So if she hits the shield hits the ground with her on top of it, it's not a fucking trampoline. It's not one of those nets that the fire department uses to save you. It is literally a shield. The shield and you are still going to hit the ground with basically the same force. There is nothing suggesting to me that the shield will somehow diffuse the power of gravity so that you're not hurt by all that gravity of you going that speed hitting the fucking ground. Again, I know she's desperate. I'm not saying you can't do stupid ass shit when you're desperate. I'm not saying that. Do not accuse me of thinking it, okay? But the author is the one who should have been thinking about things, and she fucking didn't. Finally, my magic flared to life in a tiny circle before me, but it was too late. The shield trembled and contorted, struggling to protect me, but something had gone terribly wrong with my gift. The explosion of the magical bomb earlier in the day had clearly affected it, leaving it weak and strained. It would not be enough to save me. The deafening screech of a massive bird rang in my ears as my body slammed into the earth with a sickening thud. Pain and raw magic coursed through every bone in my body, causing me to cry out in agony. My body gave out and everything flashed to the deepest black. How did she survive this? I don't know. I don't know. Don't fucking know. We're gonna get to it. I need to stop saying we're gonna get to it. There's no answers. There's no satisfaction. There's nothing but more chicanery. Chapter 5. She's slowly waking up and she hears like the murmurs of voices. She doesn't know who they are. She at first thinks maybe she's back in the wagon with the general, but that's not the case. Obviously, her body is extremely in pain, obviously, because theoretically, with nothing actually saving her like she alleged, because the shield didn't work, every bone in her body should be fucking broken. Honestly, she should probably just be dead from the blunt force trauma of hitting the ground. But we're not gonna talk about that because we don't have enough time. I hated the shivering in my bones almost as much as I hated the fact that I could barely pull myself onto my knees. Even through my haze of aches, I could hear the voices that had awoken me, and considering the way my luck had been so far, I was not at all confident that the people speaking were anyone I could trust. So I'm gonna tell you guys something. personal, you know, because sometimes it's nice to get to know your YouTubers. I have multiple chronic pain conditions that are in varying levels of managed, and there are times when I am in so much pain physically that I cannot speak, I cannot think, it is not going well. Sometimes I throw up, you know, not to be TMI, but like, just so you're aware, I wish she was in that much pain so that she would shut the fuck up, even in her own head. Also, like, we don't need to be handheld like these authors think we do. I understand that there is a literacy crisis in the United States. I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying that literacy is not at like a 6th grade level overall within our country. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to be mean or to be rude, right? However, when I was in 6th grade, I didn't need my hand held this hard. Like, why can't you let anyone think for themselves? Just a fucking thought. She gets herself up. It is agonizing. I wish it was more agonizing because reading this book is agony. She helps herself up with like a giant rock. See, the rock metaphor with the car came back around perfectly. My magic, usually a comforting presence in my chest, now felt strange and twisted, like a kicked puppy trying to find its way back home. But at least it was still there, pulsing faintly. Hey, so what is strange and twisted about a kicked puppy trying to find its way home? Those are not the right words, and words have meaning. Words have meaning. Actually, at the point of reading all of these books, I'm starting to believe that words don't have meaning. I'm starting to believe that words, they don't mean things anymore. It's just whatever word you feel like using can mean whatever the fuck you want it to mean. Her wrist is tender, and she's like probably from trying to break my fall. So we can't go over and over and over about how every bone in her body should be broken. We get it. She's a special. So like her bones are made of iron. We're fine. She is trying to listen to these people, and they're speaking an unfamiliar language to her, which is worrying for her, obviously. She just wants to get back to her general because that's her whole life, right? It's like the best thing I can do is try to hunker down for tonight and try to leave in the morning because like my magic needs to calm down. I need to calm down. This whole thing needs to fucking calm down. And she's worried about not being able to hide for long, but she has to try. She has to try. So right after the I have to try is this, and oh my god, here we go. As the sun dipped below the horizon, tall trees swayed in a gentle breeze. The deciduous leaves glowed with vibrant sunset hues. Saffron yellow. Saffron's like orange, but okay. Saffron yellow, burnt orange, and deep sienna red. Sienna is not red. It's like brown. I went to art school. It's a reddish brown. This whole paragraph is a problem, and we're gonna talk about it. It was as if they were lit from within, ready to burst into flames at any moment. The evergreens stood stoic and dark against the fiery displays of colors. Their olive and pine branches outlined in soft gold. As the darkness crept in, the shadows at the base of the trees grew deeper and more ominous. Okay. Oh my god. So, number one, I understand why we're explaining the beautiful colors of the deciduous trees, right? Except that I don't understand why we're describing the trees right fucking now, because you have much bigger issues going on. Hello? Has no one who writes these ever been through a traumatic event? Because like you are not thinking, oh look how beautiful the trees are, like after I just almost died. I mean, sometimes you're like, oh I guess that's okay because you're dissociating, but that's not what it feels like it's happening. But my other gripe is after describing the beautiful deciduous trees, we describe the evergreens as like having olive and pine branches. Now obviously the branches, not really the green part, but whatever. But I live in New Hampshire, so we're gonna let it slide, okay? But however, evergreen trees are always green. I don't need you to tell me it's green, which is what you're trying to tell me when you're saying like olive and pine or whatever. I know that they're green, and usually you're trying to describe things because it's pertinent for the reader to know. I don't need you to tell me that evergreens are green. Get it together. So there are two people who are like coming into picture, and they're both described as females. Lesbian jail. Okay? Get in the fucking corner. We do not do this crap. I hate when men do it. So why the fuck would I like it when a woman is writing it? But I could tell that they were both female. Not that that meant anything other than my magic perking up with interest, which made me flush. Surely I was not so desperate that I would be attracted to some random woman in the forest, although I had a bad feeling that was exactly the case. I needed more friends or more affection because this was getting ridiculous. You think this is ridiculous? You think this is ridiculous? I think this is fucking ridiculous. This is insanity. How I long for well-written books when I read this tripe, this absolute garbage. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit, okay? We need to start picking this up. You guys are here for the ranting, and I'm the lesbian who's gonna give it to you, you know? So, I'm a lesbian. Yeah, I'm very attracted to women, especially butches. We all know that, okay? So, if I had just been dropped from the sky by a gigantic Quetzalcoatlus, or at least Quetzalcoatlus sized fucking bird, right? And I somehow didn't break any fucking bones, and there were women in the woods who were whispering in a language I didn't understand, and they were being weird. I haven't even seen them, by the way. I can only sense them with my magic, which we're also gonna get into in a second. I would not be like, oh my god, am I so lonely that I'm attracted to a woman in the woods? Why are you thinking this way? What is your brain thought process here? Because if I had almost died and I was dropped somewhere, I didn't know where the fuck I was, and I just wanted to get back to the general, this is not what I'd be fucking worried about. Even if the butch was the hottest butch you've ever fucking seen in your life. Let's pick a random hot butch, shall we? What about Vi from Arcane? Or Gideon from Gideon the Ninth, right? Or Pyrrha from the Lock Tomb series, actually, also. I'm probably still, also especially before I've even seen them, by the way, not gonna be like, oh my god, am I like desperate enough to be attracted to this person because I don't interact with other people enough? No, I'm not gonna be like that. No matter how hot they are, if I'm in this much pain and I'm in the woods and I just got dropped by a giant fucking bird, I am not gonna be thinking this shit. This is ridiculous. Then my other problem is, let's get there, my magic perking up with interest. See, the magic I fear is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this story, and we're gonna get to it even more because like I have even more to say about it, because the magic can apparently just do whatever. You can just do whatever, guys. Somebody kill me. So there's more like talking but closer as she's like, you know, just hanging, and then there is the hilt of a sword against her fucking head again, and she gets knocked out again. So okay, so we're gonna have to go over this again because this is also a problem in movies, and I don't necessarily have a problem with using this to move the story. However, if you were hit so hard in the head that you were knocked unconscious and you're not getting back up, you have severe brain damage. It's a fact. It's a fucking fact. So like most of this story revolving around her being knocked out whenever it's convenient for the author not to write about what's going on is lazy. It's lazy and stupid. And also, maybe that is why she's so fucking stupid. She has more brain damage than you can imagine. Jesus Christ. The blackness doesn't last long. Woo, she's being dragged. Huzzah. She's being dragged by men. The rough, calloused hands on my arms belonged to two towering men, both far larger and bulkier than me. Even at full strength, I doubted I could take them out. Why? There's a lot of stupid gendered bullshit about men being super huge and her being so teeny tiny. She has magic. What does their size have to do with her dropping them with magic? She's the special, but she can't take out two large men? Fuck right off with that. She's being dragged. Her magic is crackling because again it's doing a whole lot of shit. She mutters to herself, captured by the enemy. I really do have the worst luck. It's not really luck when all of your stupid decisions get you here, is it? Also, she's making an assumption that this is like the enemy military or whatever, which the assumption does turn out to be correct. But like, we don't know why she thinks this. We still don't really know what's going on with the war, if it's even actually important for real. Like, this is just so stupid. It's fucking stupid. Like, whatever. She's in a dungeon. She's hooked up to these chains on the wall. Her arms, I think, are like raised and like kind of crazy. It's gonna end up being very uncomfortable. They're trying to hook her up. She jabs one of the men with her elbow. This does not go well because again, the men are so big and she's so tiny and not good at things, even though she's a special. Shut the fuck up. She's hooked up to the freaking chains on the wall. Anyway, oh my god, here comes another stupid paragraph. So the men leave her alone in silence, and then we're gonna continue on with this stupid chapter. Not chapter, Jesus, this stupid paragraph. I mean, the whole book is stupid. I guess I can just call it a stupid chapter, whatever. The rattling of the chains echoed throughout the cell every time I moved, accompanied by the occasional whimper or moan of the other prisoners. The sound of my own breathing seemed deafening in the otherwise silent space. The taste of fear was palpable in this cell, almost like a metallic tang on my tongue. It suffocated me, making it hard to breathe, and the twinges of pain in my ribcage didn't help. Okay, so we're gonna break down this paragraph really quick, okay? Ready? So, the rattling of the chains echoed, accompanied by the occasional whimper or moan of the other prisoners. The sound of my breathing, right? And then they said in the otherwise silent space. So it's not fucking silent if you listed 4 sounds. Oh my god. And then we switch to the taste of fear being metallic and suffocating her. So I was taught in school, at least, that like when you're changing kind of topics, you should change paragraphs. But we went from the sound that apparently is silent to the taste of fear, which as far as I know doesn't have a fucking taste. So what are we doing, author? What are we doing? She's too weak to struggle or escape. Her body is in a lot of pain. Her magic is not working. The one part of me that had some semblance of thought left wondered if so many injuries would kill me. A magical explosion from some unknown foe, being snatched by a massive bird and then knocked out by someone who I could only imagine was the enemy. We're only in chapter 5. We are on page 32. All of these things have happened in only 32 pages. And also, what fucking injuries? You literally said nothing's broken. The only injury I remember her even mentioning is a tiny little scratch. So like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Ugh. Anyway, she's like, I hope I can regain my strength and escape. Die in a fire. Chapter 6. She isn't awoken by people speaking, but someone throws water on her. There. She shakes her head and the last of her braid is unraveled. Of course she has a braid. Which one of these characters doesn't? She is glaring fiercely at the 3 people who are there to wake her up. One of the guys is the guy she elbowed that she has beef with immediately. And she's like, can I help you, fool? And the man's like, why are you here? You are in a dungeon in a life or death situation. You being annoying is gonna make this worse. I can't with these fucking people. She gives kind of a mix of a lie and the truth because she's worried about like being forced to try and give information she doesn't have through torture, but like the lying is gonna make this worse, just so you know. So she says that she was a scout and she was snatched by a giant bird, and she's like, I'm sure your people saw it. If they have eyes, they did see it. Yeah, shut up. And the guy's like, you really expect us to believe you just stumbled onto our camp? Like, I don't care what you believe, it's the truth. I'm like, it's not the total truth, and you know that. Or most of it anyway. Truth adjacent. Okay. Like, I'm not saying never lie. Lying's beautiful. But why are you lying and pretending you're part of a military when you're in a war? Lie and pretend that you're just a regular person who got snatched by a bird, and you're like, I don't know where I am. Fucking assholes. The men are laughing. They're like, fine. If you're not lying, it doesn't mean you're gonna get out of here, by the way. This is a dungeon. And they're like, and someone else makes that decision, not us. So there is somebody standing behind the door, and she kind of knows that there is, but they leave and they slam the door behind them. You shouldn't have told them you were a scout. A female voice said, enough with female. Anyway, she jerks. It's somebody who's being kept in another cell next to her. She tells her that it won't go well for Collie because it won't, telling them that she's a scout. Yeah, because no shit. She's like, well, things haven't been going overly well for me anyway. A soft mutter of agreement came from the other side of the wall. I couldn't see her, but it didn't take a genius to figure out that she was chained up as well, or at least contained in the cell next to me. We're gonna ignore this dumbassery. Whoever she was just as stuck as me, and yet she had decided to speak to me. If she hadn't spoken first, I would never have known she was there. But now that she had, I appreciated it. Also, we're gonna get to why that is also stupid about not knowing she was there, but we'll get there. I had spent so much time alone or with no one bothering to speak to me that I hated silence and the lack of companionship. Considering what a nuisance I was most of the time, it had kept my circle of companions small because most people couldn't put up with with me for very long. That is the understatement of the fucking century. That's the understatement of the century. Also, you would think somebody who can't stand not being around other people might try harder to get other people to like her. Nope, nothing. And this is coming from someone who's 1000% sure I'm autistic. I spent a lot of my childhood trying to figure out how people could like me because no one seemed to like me. And I tried like many different things. Does Collie ever? No. She's a fucking idiot. The other girl doesn't speak for a few minutes and she's like, yeah, that's kind of true, but like they'll think you know something, that you're like a spy, and that they'll torture you. Yeah, obviously. He flinched. I was self-aware enough to know that I was not the bravest person out there, and I couldn't hold out against torture forever. Sure, I was petty enough to tell them to shove it for a few days, maybe longer, but I wasn't prepared for any kind of real pain. If it came down to it, I feared what I would say. I couldn't give up a Huna. I wouldn't. This bitch is allegedly in the military and she never considered being a prisoner of war or being tortured. Anywho, her magic's too volatile right now still, so like that's not helping anything. She also decides she doesn't want them to know that she can do magic without the gauntlets until she can make her escape, because that would be information that she wouldn't want them to know, especially if they're the enemy. Like, would not be good. I don't know why it's not good. I don't know why you wouldn't try to make yourself useful, but this fucking character's stupid. Once again, I was faced with two bad choices. One, I used my magic to get out of here and let them know I still had magic. Something that they would almost certainly want to know more about, and I had never let anyone else know about that, not even a Huna. Or two, wait and hope I could come up with a plan to escape before I was tortured or killed. I might be able to gain more information by waiting, or I might get myself in so deep that I could never get myself out. Hardly a choice at all. You guys tired? I am. I really want some good fucking food. Have you guys like read anything good lately? I read The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. It was so good. Like, it had necromancy. It was amazing. And I also read The Warden, which was by Daniel M. Ford, and it also had necromancy. I gave The Invocations 5 and I gave The Warden 4, and oh my god, like, to read a well-written book in the face of this. God, I hope whatever I pick next is okay. So we're back in chapter 7 with our girl, and she is spitting at a soldier, a guard, or whoever is guarding her. Yay, that's so smart. Is she ever gonna try anything different from what she normally does? I don't know. One of the guards says, you've got quite a mouth on you, and then we get this. I cocked my eyebrows, refusing to show any fear. Guards were bullies no matter which side of the war they fought on, and bullies preyed on fear. I would give him none. When someone is standing this close to me, they normally aren't complaining about my mouth, I retorted. I'm infuriated. Also, again, do we know why she thinks all guards are evil? No. Does this assumption ever get challenged? No. And I'm not saying you can't have like a corrupt force in a fantasy book. You can. You absolutely can. But like, why does she think this? Why? Like, it just... Anyway, he yanks her head back with her hair. She headbutts him and blood gushes out of her nose. Well, then you're not headbutting, are you? Because that's your nose. Unless you're doing it completely straight. That's not what headbutting is supposed to be. You're supposed to use... Whatever. They're fighting. Someone comes in, is like, that is enough. Someone comes in, it's a woman. She has like a helmet on that lets Collie know that she is being held by the enemy. But you didn't know until this point, so you're making a lot of assumptions. Whatever. The woman says, leave us. The guards hesitate a little bit, but they do leave. She has to say now though, and then they do leave. So we're about to meet the love interest, in case you couldn't tell, but we're gonna read this for you. The one who'd barked at the orders approached. She was the one who had knocked me out before, and the only thing keeping me from lashing out at her was the fact that she wasn't close enough yet. Yet my magic shifted toward her like a flower toward the sun, and I had a strange feeling like maybe I could trust her. I chalked that up to the crack I'd taken to the head though, because she was my enemy. So again, the magic is doing a lot of stupid ass heavy lifting. Why is the magic feeling things for you? And my theory on this is Sesame. My theory on this is that the author didn't want the character to seem even more stupid and naive than before, because it's really embarrassing for you to have a dumb fucking character that you are trying to convince me is smart, right? And that character is also stupid enough to be like, oh my god, that hot enemy, I'm into this. Somehow though, I find it less stupid to just do that than be like, the magic is pulling me. Like, it's supposed to be telling me that destiny and fate and the magic, that's the reason they're being pulled together. It's not because Collie's a supreme fucking idiot. It's because of greater forces or something. And I'm like, I would rather her be stupid. You've already proved to me that she's stupid. Whatever. This woman's name is Legacy. I do not understand the naming conventions of this world, and we're gonna get to it when another character is introduced. I'm just gonna go over it when that character is introduced. If I don't remember, I'm sorry. There's so much wrong with this book. Legacy tries to ask for her name, and Collie's like, why do you want to know that? A sound came from inside her helmet and her hands rose. I flinched despite myself, but she only removed her helmet and held it against her side. I flushed, hoping the blood and dirt on my face were enough to hide my reaction to her beauty. Her hair was red as flame, falling over her shoulders the second she removed the helmet. Her eyes were a piercing, stunning, bright blue, and her dark brows rose. So nobody else has been described physically that much, by the way, but also like, you're just telling me she's a redhead. I don't know what else she looks like. Like, have authors forgotten that that facial features and like other things about them should be described, not just the color of their hair? What is this? The freaking fan fictions where when people had blue hair, they were like the blue net? Because that's what this feels like. That's what this feels like. Anyway, she's clearly already into her because she's hot or something. Collie's like, okay, what comes next? She doesn't really answer, and then Collie's getting kind of dizzy because she's still had quite a tumble. Please, I said, let's not pretend that you and yours are just going to let me walk out of here. She sighed but nodded. I do not make the decision about your freedom. After all, you know the location of our camp. We must be certain that you are no threat to our cause. I tried to throw my hands up in frustration, a feeling only heightened by the chains holding my arms in place. Actually, I don't know the location of your camp. I was unconscious when I was dragged here. I have no idea where I am. This is a war. They're not just gonna take your word for it, you fucking imbecile. Whatever. Legacy is like, you and I have very different ideas of what's gonna happen next. She kind of has a little smirk, a little grin. Surely she couldn't be trying to make a jest at a time like this. If so, I was personally of the opinion that it was in very poor taste. Then again, I was the very definition of a captive audience, so if there was ever a time for her to make jokes, it was now. Yeah, I don't want to hear you, one of the most unfunny people I've ever seen in a book, criticize someone else for making a little bit of gallows humor. I don't really want to hear it. I don't really care what you think, Collie. Collie's like, well then enlighten me about what you think will be happening next. Bitch, you're a prisoner. Why are you not doing anything smart? She smiled briefly and my chest tightened. She might not have been as determined to hurt me as some of her compatriots, but that didn't mean I could trust her. I had learned a long time ago that a smile like that one was very rarely ever a good thing. So then why are you talking to all these random people and trying to be overly friendly because you're not getting enough attention? If you know that people can be dangerous, you should actually act like it, but you don't. You never act like it. You're a fucking... I want a kiss, she said, stepping closer until our faces were only inches apart. What? Why? I demanded, my heart pounding out of my chest. What? She gazed into my eyes, searching for any sign of reluctance. But she wouldn't find any. She was too beautiful to refuse. Okay, so if I'm being captured by, I don't know, let's pick someone else who's hot. Vi from Arcane. And again, kidnapped against my will, prisoner of war. And she's like, I want a kiss. And I didn't know it was Vi from Arcane. I have to preface with that. The answer's no. Also, like, she's a creep for wanting a kiss because, like, you can't give consent when you're a prisoner. It's why prisoners and prison guards aren't supposed to have sex, unlike what Orange is the New Black will tell you. You're not supposed to do that. Look at... Well, the idea of her lips on hers causes some smoldering for Collie, so like, it's all good apparently. So they kiss and Collie's kissing her back. Then she pulls away. It left Collie breathless. Legacy after she, I guess she stepped out and came back. It's not said, so how would we know? I don't know. She's like, I brought you some company, and Collie's like, okay. And they bring in the girl who is from the next cell over and they shove her in there. Collie is very rude immediately and is like, who is she? And then she actually turns to the girl because she realizes she's being rude and she's like, oh, I'm actually sorry. Who are you? who are you? And before she can answer, one of the guards is like, how strange, you've been half feral with my guards, biting and kicking, and yet you sound like some highborn lady when talking to a piece of trash like this. And he's like kicking at the girl. It's very cartoon villain. We're also gonna get to why I don't understand why this girl is locked up. It's stupid. And Collie's like, enough, and it's so yeah, like they're gonna listen to you. I and this girl needed me to be here present in this moment. Neither of us would be served well if the guards decided they didn't like my tone. Perhaps I could protect this new girl merely by being the target of their rage. I had yet to take a beating, only never-ending questions, and by the looks of her, she had been here for far longer than I had. It was only fair. She has such a weird worldview that doesn't make any sense. She says that she understands that random people can be dangerous and can do deceptive things, and yet she acts in a way that proves she doesn't think about that at all. She is immediately trusting this other girl as a prisoner. She doesn't think that this might be a setup in any way, which we will learn it is partially a setup. She's just like, she has this weird camaraderie with people she just meets. She has this weird feeling about Legacy, who she just met. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. They do loosen her chains so she's not right up against the wall and she can move a little bit around, and then they leave her and the new girl in together by themselves, telling them to enjoy each other's company. Who are you? I repeated. My name is Varna. I am a prisoner too. Her voice was halting and slow, a quiet rasp, like she hadn't used it in a long time. My heart ached for her, and once again, my magic rippled just beneath the surface sharply enough that I struggled to keep it beneath my skin. Sometimes it reacted this way to certain people, but I had no way of telling why. Perhaps it was just the state I was in right now. It felt like the magic would burst from my skin at any moment from sheer pain and fear. See, the magic is doing too much, and yet not enough. We don't know what the rules of the magic are, and yet the magic is like overflowing and painful, and also tells her things about people. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. This is basically my reaction to like reading this fucking book, I guess. I don't know. Now we're gonna talk about the naming conventions because I don't understand it. We have Collie, named after a dog. We have Legacy, which is just a word that we use in, it's not really a name. And then we have Varna and General Ihuna, which are much more fantasy-y names. I don't understand what's going on with the naming conventions. It's all very stupid. They both have really black hair, but Varna's hair is like matted or whatever. I really don't think that a lot of people know what that word means either, but we're gonna skip over it. It's fine. Like, another thing I didn't see, a reason for them to bring her here in the first place. Why risk bringing two prisoners together when it could invite an escape attempt or something similar? Do you know why we're here? I asked. She opened and closed her mouth for a moment, then finally nodded. Because I'm like you. That's the end of the chapter. I'm gonna take a quick break and be right back. Chapter 8. She's waiting for Varna to clarify what she meant by being like her. I shouldn't say that. Not exactly. Not like you exactly, but I am special. I can sense magic without the use of a gauntlet. And I can sense that you have a ton of it. Isn't that her power exactly? Except instead of sniffing it, you're just sensing it. Whatever. She could sense magic without a gauntlet, and I could wield it without a gauntlet. What a powerful duo we could make. I mean, she doesn't really have anything that you don't already have. You can sniff out magic, remember? Oh my gosh. She introduces herself. Hooray. Why is it only focusing on my hair? That's so stupid. There we go. They start talking and they try to be hushed, but they know that the guards are probably outside listening. And she's like, I know I shouldn't have told her my name because the guards are probably listening, but it's the least I can do so that we can try and build some trust. And I'm like, why are you doing that? I know that you need to try and escape. But again, your entire worldview and motivations don't make any fucking sense. She just says she seems like someone who would help me escape. Why do you think that? Why do we think this? I don't know. And she just thinks, she's like, Legacy, who's even not like cruel, is still my enemy. We're taking away first person POV and we're taking away enemies to lovers. Okay? Okay. My mind finally made the connection to why she was here. Not because she was a prisoner, but because of what she could do. They wanted to know what I could do as well. You're here to see if I have magic, I said, to see if I would be useful to them the way you are. She flinched, and I realized belatedly that what I'd said could be construed as cruel. I didn't mean that unkindly, I said. Was only thinking out loud. You have to do what you must in order to survive. No one can blame you for that. I don't understand multiple things that are happening. Because the author doesn't either. The author didn't think anything. Varna's like, oh, I already told them you have magic. BT dubs. She's like, the red-haired one, Legacy. She can tell if you're lying if she touches you. I didn't want to lie to her. Her voice softened with something like fear, and I nodded slowly. Of course she wouldn't want to risk lying to Legacy and risk her own life. How long have you known? I asked. Varna shrugged, gesturing to the wall next to us, the wall with the small hole in it. Since the moment you were brought here. They always bring new prisoners to the cells next to me so that I can tell them if there's anything useful about them, magical or otherwise. I was able to sense you when you were still unconscious, when they were dragging you in. So here's my other thing that I don't understand. Varna does not seem to be particularly dangerous, so I don't understand why they've made her a prisoner and why they haven't tried to bargain with her to get her to just do this for like room and board and living there and not being in the dungeon. I don't understand, because at the point I'm at in the book too, it's not like she was secretly not a prisoner or something. So like, it doesn't make any sense. We don't learn why she was imprisoned, really. We don't really learn much about her despite them allegedly talking for hours. So I don't understand this book. I don't. They talk for hours about anything and everything they can think of, but apparently not why Varna's in prison or why no one has offered Varna a job when she's clearly useful to this cause of the enemy. It doesn't make any sense. Finally, I couldn't stand the suspense any longer. Varna seemed to know more than I did about this place, perhaps because she had been here longer. Although the more suspicious part of me whispered that perhaps there was more to it. I had hung around Ihuna long enough to grow suspicious, something I couldn't shake even now. Whatever the reason that Varna knew more about this place than I did, I would take advantage of it. Does Legacy have to kiss someone to tell whether or not they're telling the truth? I cringed, immediately regretting asking that question. Varna cocked a dark eyebrow and frowned, coiling her chains loosely around her hands in what looked like a nervous tick. No, perhaps it helps, but she's never felt the need to do that with me. I guessed I was just lucky then. Oh yeah, getting assaulted in prison is lucky. Right. Nothing about this story or this plot makes any fucking sense. So they hang out together for a while longer and she's like, I consider her my friend now. And I'm like, why? We didn't get to see any of this character development. We just have to believe you when it said it happened. It just makes me feel like she's delusional. And she is, so... So the cell slams open and they come in and they take Varna away and Kali starts freaking the hell out. They just take her back to her own cell. So like, I don't really see why she cares that much. You don't really know this person and we have been here for none of the development. So like, I don't care that you think she's your friend and you care about her. Whatever. She's freaking out as they take Vanna away. They're now kind of bothering Kali. I wish they would bother her more. Like maybe they could do something to her mouth so she can't talk. Anyway, here comes Legacy to save her and she's like, leave to the guards, and then she comes in. Except it's not Legacy, and I don't know how you could have confused these two people, Kali, because they're not even the same fucking gender. I realized that it wasn't Legacy standing before me. Instead, it was someone I knew. It was someone I knew all too well, someone from my past. Goosebumps formed on my skin as I tried to make sense of their sudden appearance. My mind raced with questions and possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. The air around us felt heavy with tension as our eyes met, and my heart began to race. What do you want? I had seen him before, but not enough to know exactly who he was or what he wanted. You're about to learn who this man is, and the fact that she can't remember who he is insane. Also, he's not from her past. She's still allegedly part of the other military. He isn't someone she met like from a long time ago. She still probably goes to meetings with this person. It's so stupid. It's so contrived. It's such bullshit. I'm surprised you don't remember me. I'm Tannen, Ihuna's superior. You don't remember him. Right. Sure. I totally believe you. I totally believe you. Kali immediately is like, oh, you're a traitor. And then he shrugged as if it didn't matter at all. Traitor to your cause, yes. Mine, no. You're not in any position to understand, so I don't feel the need to explain it to you. Why isn't she in a position to understand? What about this? Like, if she and people like her are so useful, why aren't these militaries trying harder to recruit her? If she is so important that Ihuna's superior, who is a traitor, knows about her, why hasn't he tried to snatch her and get her onto his side? It doesn't make any sense why these people would just let these incredibly powerful people walk around and do whatever they want. When I get out of here, I needed to know more about him so I could take that information back to Ihuna. Rumor had it that he descended from the original Caputo family, which was one half of the reason this war had started hundreds of years ago in the first place. The Caputo kingdom blamed the Montrose kingdom for harvesting magic from their land. The Montroses blamed the Caputos for the same thing, and thus the bitter feud began. That's a really dumb reason to have a 100+ year war, especially when we don't have evidence other than this one sentence that the magic comes from the land. Except that it doesn't, because Kali apparently can just get it from anywhere, and she generates her own magic separate from the magic she can just get anywhere. So literally, the magic does not come from the ground. It doesn't. So this is stupid. She's like, if you don't feel the need to explain yourself, then what are you doing? Gloating? Yeah, obviously. And he's like, no, a little birdie told me that there was someone here who could smell magic. Hold on, let's see. Let's just read what he said because it'll be easier. No, a little bird told me there was a prisoner here who could smell magic, that she sniffed out a whole warehouse of it before it exploded. I wanted to see for myself, as you will be very useful for our experiments. Imagine my surprise when I found Ihuna's pet here. At least his villain monologue is short, but also, like, I don't understand why they're conducting experiments unwillingly on people when, like, theoretically you would want to get them on your side, because if they all burst out with their powerful magic or whatever, they're gonna want to kill you. They're gonna want revenge, so it doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Now, even though she wasn't upset about people calling her Ihuna's pet before, she's now suddenly upset about this. She's also trying to figure out how he knows, because she didn't tell Varna that she can smell magic, and she's all like challenging him because she's a dumbass and she does not actually care about her own safety and living. And she's like, well, whatever you're gonna do, do it. Get it over with, like goading him or whatever. No, he's like, well, Ihuna always said you were brave, maybe too brave. I don't think she's brave, I think she's stupid. I think she's stupid and she doesn't understand risk assessment. But he's also like, we're not finished with you yet, because I know, like I suspect that you can do more than just sniff out magic. And I'm like, what does that matter in the context of any of this though? Also, like, if people can do magic using gauntlets, why do these people who can do it without matter? Are they just that much more like powerful, or like what is the reason? What does it matter? If the magic allegedly comes from the ground, which we know it probably doesn't, but if it does, why do they need these people? If people can use magic with gauntlets, why do they need these people? It's never explained. It's never explained. It doesn't make any sense. And also she literally goes over like, oh, she can sense magic without a gauntlet. That's crazy. So you can sense magic with a gauntlet, which then therefore makes at least her sniffing power useless. All of these powers are useless and stupid. Oh my god, whatever. She tries to like start weakening the chains maybe so that she can hopefully escape. I highly doubted that I'd like whatever Tannen had in mind for me. Better to take my chances on my magic. Perhaps you're not finished with me, I muttered under my breath, but I'm finished with you. No one cares. Also, you're just now trying to escape. More seriously, we haven't been told that you've recuperated anything, so it doesn't make it whatever. We gotta keep going. Chapter 9. So her hands have started kind of like bleeding around the chains or what have you, and she has been slowly trying to get out of the chains so that she can escape. But she's exhausted, so this is going to take a very long time. She's had no food, no water. The guards keep beating her up. Like, she's not doing well. The door opens. It's Legacy and the guards, and they're like, do you want us to leave, my lady? And she's like, no. Kali's like, what do you want? And she's like, I just want you to answer a simple question. And she has a canteen of water that she's like kind of offering as like payment for said answer. And she just wants to know Kali's name. Kali's like, I don't believe that's all you want, which fair. And she's like, you're right, before she steps closer and she's like, I want another kiss. Why? Probably because she hasn't heard her talk long enough to know that she's insufferable. She takes a drink from the canteen and then she kisses it into Kali's mouth. That's fucking disgusting. That's despicable. Whatever. This makes Kali really horny, but I feel like if you're not really expecting it, you could just like start choking on the water, but whatever. We're not here to make sense. We're here to be horny with an underdeveloped fantasy world as the backdrop. I had to focus on survival first and foremost. Whatever Legacy was thinking now, I doubted she would spell it out for me, and I didn't know if I could trust her even if she did. Yeah, no shit. She's one of your captors. It's weird that you're hard up for her already. It's weird. I know you can tell if I'm lying when you touch me. I tried to lean back to put a little more space between us despite my bindings. I needed room to think, but Legacy just nodded. I can, but kissing you is a privilege. I don't do that with many prisoners. Her cheeks flushed and she turned away. So you do it with some of them though. Weird. She's going to leave, but Collie sees like keys or something sticking out of her pocket and she blurts out her name. It's Collie. Yay. And Legacy's like, pardon? And she's like, I'm called Collie. And she's like, what is a collie? A collie is a dog, often black and silver. They can smell magic. We don't have time to unpack all this. Only some collies have a little bit of silver if we're talking about real dogs, but we don't learn if there's magical dogs. Not quite yet, or maybe ever, I don't know. And she's like, my hair is black and silver, that's why they call me Collie. And this bitch is like, you can smell magic? Somebody sedate me. Also, it says that she gently freed my braid from my chain, but I thought you said that your braid was done. Like it was all done when you shook your head that time? Consistency, what's that? I flushed with shame, hating how much she had to work to see even the faintest glint of silver under the grease, blood, and dirt. I hadn't had a bath in days. I couldn't have looked any worse unless I tried. Why are you worried about what you look like? You might die. Whatever. Legacy is like, can you clean up a little? And then she's like, apologies, that was a foolish question. And Collie's snarky is like, yeah, sure, with all the clean water I get. I'm just like, if you weren't you, I'd be fine with this snark back, but because you are you, I don't care. Legacy says my apologies again because she didn't mean anything by it really. She grabs the silver loop from Legacy's belt without Legacy noticing somehow. She leaves and then Varna says through the cells, well done, you've managed to irritate the only person who doesn't hate you. And Collie's like, you don't hate me? That's very presumptuous. She had to speak to you for allegedly hours. Collie's trying to get some sleep, but again, she's chained up pretty bad and she can't get really comfortable. And Varna kind of whispers through the thing. She's like, you get used to it, which is sad. Then finally, she actually thinks some things about Varna for once. Finally, she has some questions, but since the author doesn't really care, I don't know if we'll ever get answers. Who was she? Why was she here? Did it have something to do with magic like me, or were they holding her for another reason? I knew about her talent, but surely there was someone who could have done the same without being held prisoner. How had they learned about her gift in the first place? How had she ended up here? That's a really great question because we don't know why they have her as a prisoner instead of just like a regular person that they give a ton of rights to and like privileges so that she wants to help them. There is no reason as to why she has to be a prisoner for this. Whatever. I couldn't think of many in the Montrose Caputo War who weren't related to magic in some way, but I also would never have considered holding someone captive and starving them to see what their magic would do. My cheeks warmed hot as a fever. I was no better. I did not hold anyone captive, but I had killed. I had killed with my magic and I had done it well. I had only done it because Ahuna asked me to, but this was a war and I had contributed to the piles of bodies, to the weeping family members left behind. I was no better than they were, just different. Yeah, and you don't really think about that much, do you? You think about like all kinds of other stuff, but like you don't think about that. Also, I don't like the weird moralizing that she does, and like it's because this is a war. A lot of people in their own brains have to find ways to rationalize the terrible things that they're doing, but she doesn't. She's trying to be like, oh, I'm just as bad as these people who are starving and beating and denying water to people and who are probably going to experiment on people and who are torturing people. I'm like, I think that it's weird that you don't view like death as a gift almost, you know? Like, I'm not saying every soldier character has to view it that way, but I don't understand her motivations. I don't understand her worldview. I don't understand anything about her. And it's infuriating. She is going to figure out how to get out of here and she's gonna take Varna with her. Why? I don't know. I really don't know what it is about her as a person that would make her want to save someone she doesn't know, when really the only person we've seen that she cares about and has an actual real relationship with is the general. So I don't understand this. I don't get it. Anyway, also that thing she stole was a bracelet, so I don't know how that's gonna help her escape. I can't remember. I just remember it was dumb. She's using her magic to weaken the chain links, and like we're gonna get to why. I don't know why she decided to do this exactly, but okay. She works on it for hours, but she's having a hard time like getting free. Every time she hears one of the guards pass by, she like freezes. She's trying to make the smallest amount of noise as possible. She finally gets free and her limbs feel very like numb from being chained up for so long, but the chains still hang from her wrist, and I don't understand why when we're assuming that the chain links are a decent width because they need to be. I don't know why she didn't do the part that's actually connected to your wrist. It doesn't make any fucking sense, and now she has to worry about potentially making all this noise. I don't get why she's doing this. She kind of ties them in like a loose knot, but again, it's metal. You can't easily. Why am I arguing with a dumb book? The dumb book doesn't care. She goes to Varna's cell, and Varna's like, how are you so close right now? And she's like, I snapped my chains, I'm out. Now we have to get you out of here. And she's like, I actually don't know, I'm gonna think about it. And I'm like, you had all these hours where you were, you know, trying to get out and you didn't think about that? It's almost like we're a fucking idiot. We also learn more about her magic, which again brings more questions about the magic system. The days without practicing had taken their toll, leaving me struggling to maintain control as I fought to tame the wild energy within me with just this flimsy bracelet / earring I stole from Legacy that I could use as a gauntlet. Number one, you said you need a gauntlet. So I don't understand why you need the bracelet to act as a gauntlet when you don't need a gauntlet. Number two, why is it when you don't practice with the magic it then becomes unmanageable? Like, what is it about it that causes that? There is nothing here to tell us. There's nothing. So annoying. We also learned that gauntlets and sigils were passed down through generations of magic users, but I had spent most of my youth scraping a living after my parents died. The only thing I had left from either of them was the amulet tucked close to my heart. It wasn't magical at all. Okay, so where did you get the gauntlets? Apparently they were either borrowed, bought, or stolen. Again, why when she's in the military does she need to steal these things? I don't know. I don't know. And it doesn't make any sense for the gauntlets to be inherited, because wouldn't they want all these freaking people, including orphans, to sign up? It doesn't make any sense. Varna warns her, even though she's like, I know you're thinking, but Legacy is on the way. And she's like, how do you know? And then she's like, I'm dumb. Of course I know how she knows. And then Varna says how she knows. It's so stupid. She goes over the two options, which are break down the wall between them, which she's like, I have plenty of magic left to do a small explosion. Again, what can the magic do? Who knows? But unfortunately, there's a chance that she or Varna could get hurt. Yeah, no duh. Option two is wait for Legacy to get closer and then attack her and hope that she can turn the situation to her advantage. Why she's doing that, I don't know either. I think both of these options are stupid. I think leaving Varna makes the most sense, but what do I know? That also meant I would be repaying Legacy's attention by using her to escape. A rush of guilt swamped my stomach. That, more than anything, solidified my decision. She was my enemy. She did not deserve my guilt. Why? It feels so insta-lovey. It feels so insta-lusty. It doesn't. Do you guys not know what enemies to lovers means? I'm scared. So she pushes herself on the wall next to the door so that when Legacy comes in, she can just attack her. I didn't want to hurt Legacy, but if I had to choose between her and myself and Varna, I would choose us, even if my traitorous heart did pang sharply at that notion. Why? Why does it? Because she kissed you? What does that have you never been kissed by someone you weren't into? Or like the context was bad? I don't understand this. I don't get it. Whatever. Legacy comes in, she lunges for her. Her magic is spiraling out of control, and she yanked it back into herself almost brutally. I don't understand how the magic is externalized either. I don't understand why when you're feeling things, it's also the magic feeling things. This is so dumb. Anyway, she gets the chain around Legacy's throat. She's like, don't move, don't scream, or I'll kill you. Legacy's like, I don't think you can. And she's like, are you sure about that? Because you're the reason I'm here in the first place. No, the reason you're here in the first place is because you can't listen to instructions. That's why. Anywho, also there's a delicious heat that skips over her skin at being near to her. Gross. I know you didn't mean to come here, she said. I thought you were a threat and I did what I had to do. By the time I realized that I was wrong, it was too late. I rolled my eyes. Likely story when I had a chain wrapped around her throat and could feel her pulse pounding against the side of my wrist. Given that you've not done anything to rectify that decision by freeing me, forgive me if I don't believe you. I loosened the chain only enough to hold one hand out. The keys. I know you have them in your jacket pocket. I saw you carrying them the last time you came in here. I don't. Don't lie to me. I saw you. You carry keys in here every time you come. If I hadn't been so distracted, I might have been able to steal them off of you before now. Distracted by what? She asked softly, and I flushed, glad that I was behind her and she couldn't see my face. Distracted by her, of course, her beauty, and something resembling kindness completely at odds with the fact that I was only here because of her. I couldn't figure her out, but perhaps it would be best if I didn't. She was my enemy and I had to remind myself of that far too often for comfort. You, I admitted. Now give me the keys. This character is stupid and annoying and ridiculous and I can't stand it. Anyway, she's like, how do you think that's gonna play out? And she's like, I could search by hand, but then I'd have to put the chain down and then we'd have to fight again. That's not gonna work well. She's like, I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. Yeah, we can tell. We can tell. And before people are like, you just hate characters having to come up with stuff on the fly. That's not true. I love Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. She is constantly coming up with a new plan in the middle of a plan because new chicanery is happening. I don't hate unexpected things in books. I hate that this character's dumb. And the author is trying to assert that she's good at things and assert that she's smart, and she's not in the slightest. She's like, I only need to scream and then you'll like never get out of here alive. And Collie's like, do it then. Like, also, her magic is overly sensitive because of the lack of use, and then she can sense where the guards are. Why can her magic do everything? Why is her magic a jack of all trades? I don't like it. When Legacy didn't shout, the corner of my lip curled up in a smile and my chest warmed. She cared enough not to shout and trap me in here, but she was right. One word from her and this escape was over before it truly began. I'm sorry, I murmured, then smashed my elbow against her temple, stumbling with her weight as she went limp. I'm sick of you knocking people out in this book. It's a lazy plot device. Also, why do you care if she cares about you? It doesn't make any sense. What's her middle name? What's her favorite food? What kind of books does she like to read? What if she doesn't like to read at all? What if she likes, I don't know, feet? Like, what are we doing? No shaming to the foot kink people. I'm just saying, like, if you're not into it, it might not be a fun time for you. I don't get this book. She gets the keys. She has to like go through the keys to unlock Varna's cell door. She's freaking out a little bit because the guards could discover her at any moment, or Legacy could come back into consciousness, I guess. But like, girl, you did not think any of this through. I don't feel bad for you. She gets her out and she's like, are you ready to get out of this place? And Varna's like, took you long enough. Chapter 11. It takes her a while to free Varna from the chains, so I don't understand why she's acting like they're home free. Also, why are all of the handcuff keys on the same ring as the cell keys? Who knows? Apparently these people are all as dumb as she is. She asks Varna if she knows a way out of here. Varna, of course, knows where everything is because her magic can sense everything, apparently not just magic. And then they're going, they're leaving, they're out of here. She has to kind of help Varna stand to so they can get out. Again, this was a terrible plan. Terrible plan. They get to another door. They're somehow able to get the correct key after a bit. Again, this whole thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They're outside. Now, this prison is allegedly in the middle of nowhere with no other structures or anything that they'll have to get through, or like a town or a city or nothing, because this author is an idiot. Varna asks her if it's smart to keep the key ring, and Collie is like, I can't remember the last time I was sure I had a good idea. I said, honestly, at this point, I'm just making it up as I go. But I figure they're more use to us than to the guards, and I'm happy to inconvenience them if I can. Okay. So they're out of the camp, but there's nothing really described about the camp at all. How no one sees them. Nothing. There's literally nothing here. They hear like running water, and then they run to a stream, and then they drink so long that they like are almost sick from it because they haven't had enough water in a while, which was really stupid of them, but whatever. They both think that the wisest thing that they can do is keep moving so that their captors don't find them, but they both like lay down, and Collie passes out for a while even though Varna has been captured for much longer and has been undergoing horrific treatment for much longer. Doesn't matter though, she's gonna do the first watch because Varna's just nice like that. Okay. Collie tries to get like all close to her because she wants like the physical comfort, and she isn't offended though when Varna doesn't want to hold her hand, and I'm just like, you're so presumptuous, you're so weird. And for someone who has had such a lack of physical affection, the fact that you immediately find it comforting is a bit odd. I don't really understand it. Anywho, they get up because Varna is like, they're coming, we have to go. And Collie's like, okay. Chapter 12. She's like, so now what? And then we get this from Varna. If they have any kind of dogs, they won't be able to track our scent if we're in the water. Not to mention, they won't be able to follow our footprint on the bank either. Depending on which way the current is going, it might even take us away from them. So number one, that's not true. Dogs can smell things in water if it's the right kind of dog. For an example, beagles, which is the kind of dog I grew up with, can smell a teaspoon of sugar in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So you're incorrect in the assumption that the water will wash away your smell. It will not. It won't. Not completely. So Oh my god. Also, they're not even spending most of the time when they do get in the water, by the way, under the water. They're like floating above the water, and your head probably still makes a smell. Just saying. The stream is like freezing, and they're still gonna get into it anyway, which they probably should have gotten hypothermia from this, but we're just gonna have to move on because nothing in this book makes sense. So Kali asks if Varna can swim. Varna says, nope, I cannot. And so Kali is going to have to try and keep them above water the entire time. And she's like, just hold on to me. We're going to try our best. The water is moving very fast, but is this really a problem for them? No, because nothing that should be a problem in this book is a problem. She's talking about how the water is freezing her skin, how her teeth are chattering. Again, they should not have been able to survive this. I really don't get it. Anyway, eventually they pull themselves onto the bank of a stream, and Varna's like, they're not going to be able to find us now. And I'm like, I don't really understand why you believe that. But okay. They're happy that the grass is all warm and whatever. Kali this time is like, I can sleep for a while so you can sleep. And Varna's like, we'll both just sleep. She's like, I'll feel if anyone is coming. And also I think there's a settlement not that far away. So like, it'll be fine. I thought she could only sense magic, not people, but apparently that's not true. So who knows? Varna also says like, I think it's kind of where you came from because the magic seems to have kind of like a similar magic signature is what she says, and I just like, I don't get what that's supposed to mean. I don't understand and I don't care. She waved her hand in a loose gesture like she wasn't sure how else to explain it. I nodded. I knew what she meant. Ihuna had taught me most of what I knew, so it made sense that our magical signatures would feel the same. At least I assumed it was Ihuna she was talking about, since that was the only thing that made any sense to me. No, it doesn't, because you literally said that you can't detect the differences between magics. So why can she but not you? What is there about that? It doesn't make any sense. Whatever, they're gonna go to sleep because she needs all the energy she can get to make it back to Ihuna. Our lives, and potentially many others, hung in the balance with that traitor Tannen walking around free. Tannen hasn't even done anything evil yet, so I'm not sure why you believe that, but alright. Chapter 13. She wakes up and Varna has woken her up, and she's like worried she hit her because she never wakes gracefully. She's just so quirky. Varna's like, we've slept for hours. If we want to get to that settlement by nightfall, we should get going. I'm sorry I slept so long, I said. It feels like all I've done since we escaped to sleep. I've left you to be a guard, and you've been through more than I have. Varna snorted and shook her head. We went through different things, and I am not the one to say that your suffering means less than mine. Besides, you're the one who got the keys and got us out of there. Not to mention keeping me from drowning on the way downstream. We both deserved some rest. I didn't need all that for her to just be like, you should rest too. We know, at least from our knowledge, that Varna has suffered much more at the hands of those people than Kali did. So I don't understand why we're playing like, oh, Kali, you suffered too. Don't worry. We both deserve to rest. I'm like, girl, get a grip. Why is everyone Kali's hype woman? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyway, they're gonna go toward the settlement. Yay. They get to the gates and she's like, well, me and Varna don't look like we're a threat to them, so you should be fine. And I'm just like, I don't know why you keep assuming these things. I don't know why you're so stupid, so uniquely dumb. They approached the gate to the settlement with their hands raised to show that they are not a threat. Varna did the same as me, and I made a mental note to ask her if she had any sort of offensive magic in addition to sensing magic itself. See, what are the different kinds of magic? What are the different kinds of magic? We don't know. Anyway, the guards are like, who are you guys? Like, she just says, I'm Kali. I'm here for General Ihuna. And they leave and they're like waiting in silence or whatever. And then we learn this, which literally I'm about to go into like a rage blackout about, okay? I had no rank. I hadn't so much as joined as been conscripted into Ihuna's inner circle. I was tolerated because of Ihuna's importance and because I was useful. Without Ihuna, I did not belong here. Any right I had to be here lay with her. But even so, I didn't know if the guards would allow us entry. What do you mean? What do you mean? You said you were a soldier. You said you were a battle mage, and now you're suddenly not conscripted? And my other question is why would anyone allow this? We know that the general is not the top of the hierarchy in this fucking military. Why would they allow someone who had not sworn allegiance, had not done the training, had not done all this stuff to just follow a general around to meetings, to just follow a general around with classified information? Why would they allow that? That is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life. And I hate this book. I hate this book. They're waiting for a while and they're like, something's up. No one's coming. And Varna's like, I don't like this. Eventually, Collie just yells like, are you gonna let us in or not? Yay. And one of the guards shouts like, wait a minute. And then they open the gate and they hobble inside, but something is still in fact wrong because they close the gates and they bar them behind them and they're like, oh, that's not normal. I tense my magic coiling around my fingers. What are you doing? Get General Ihuna. She'll know who I am. One of the soldiers stepped forward, leveling the tip of his spear at my chest. Tension coiled in the air that I didn't understand. The kind I could nearly taste on my tongue like blood and fire. General Ihuna is coming, he said grimly, and I made note of the way he spoke her title. She ordered that you be detained until she arrives. For what? I demanded. They don't answer, and then she's like, for what again? And they're like, for treason. So dun dun dun. Chapter 14. General Ihuna comes up and she's like, that's enough. But to my horror, when I looked at Ihuna, I realized that she wasn't looking at the soldiers. She hadn't told them to stand down. She had been talking to me. I stared at her, my jaw slackened. Why was she mad at me? I hadn't done anything wrong. She could have been angry that I hadn't stayed where she'd commanded me to. But in light of everything else that had happened, I was a bit miffed that she was still angry with me. It wasn't my fault that I had been snatched by Tannen's giant bird, then dropped, then taken captive by the enemy. Yes, I should have stayed where I was told, but this wasn't entirely my fault. How did we jump to it being Tannen's bird? I don't understand that. I don't understand where she got that idea from. It's not like it's well known he has a giant bird, so I don't get it. I don't get it. Also, you did do things wrong. You just listed a bunch of them, so I don't understand why you're like, I didn't do anything wrong. Shut up. Shut up. The general says we will speak, but I heard word of you turning against our cause, so I can't just let you walk free until we get to the bottom of these accusations. She's like, but you know me, I'm not lying, I'm not a traitor. And then she's like, oh my god, it was Tannen. He's the reason why she thinks I'm a traitor. And I'm like, yes, you literal dumb idiot. Like who else would it be? I don't understand her. I don't. Ihuna tells the guards to take her away. I lunged toward her, one last attempt to make her understand that this was all wrong with the soldiers. Roughly grabbed me. You wanted to prove that you were innocent by lunging at the general who thinks you're not necessarily innocent. Okay, I'm sure that makes you look super not guilty. She begs Ihuna and it doesn't work. Ihuna was the one person I had always trusted, the one who cared about me no matter what my issues were. I had no family, but she was the closest thing I had. She gave up on me. I had nothing left. Yeah, we know. We know. You said that you have companions, but we haven't seen any that weren't literally forced to be around you. So, yeah, we know. We know that she's all you've got. Yeah. Thank you. They take her to a room that is like decent-ish. It's not a cell. Like she's being under house arrest, not real arrest. So obviously Ihuna doesn't really think that she's guilty. Would they torture or kill me if Ihuna gave the word? She wouldn't, I muttered to myself, curling tighter beneath the thin blanket. Can we also talk about though how boring it is to go from the character being kidnapped and taken to a dungeon where she will be tortured, where we don't really see any of the torture, to her escape, to her then being imprisoned a second time. It's really boring and it's really stupid. And it feels like the author couldn't think of anything else to do because we did an insane amount of things in the first 32 pages for some reason. It's been a while and Ihuna has come to talk to Collie. Ihuna's face appeared in the doorway once again. I had the urge to relax, to trust that she was here to help me, but I resisted. Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway, Ihuna is like, you look ill. Ill. An interesting word choice for starving. And I'm like, girl, people who are starving are not well. You're welcome. She's like, is Varna safe? And Ihuna's like, yeah, she was clearly just a victim. So yeah, she's fine. She's doing great. So good for Varna. Like, why are you here? You've already locked me up. And it's like, yeah, you dumb bitch. Like, I can't stand it. I can't stand her. And she's like, I don't think you'll believe what I have to say. It's like, it isn't about that. It's not that I don't trust you, but when one of my superiors sends a message that you've turned against us, that you're a traitor, I can't just let you walk around freely. And it never occurred to you that it might be strange. I saw Tannen when I was a captive. He's the traitor, not me. Then her brows rise and she's like, of course you don't believe me. I mean, it does look like a desperate woman's attempt a little bit, yeah. And then she's like, in her head, she's like, but the worst part is I can't even blame her. I can't stand her. I want to believe you. I truly do. But you understand how this looks. I can look into what you've said, but it will take time and I can't let you wander. And she's like, what about Varna? And she's like, she's safe here. She's fine. Like, she needs time to recover, but she's perfectly safe here. But despite this spark of betrayal still burning in my chest, I trusted Ahuna as much as I trusted anyone, no matter what happened. Tannen seemed to think that Varna would be useful to him even here, so she would be safe in a way that I was not. She's like weirdly jealous of Varna for reasons I cannot fathom. And I hope that Varna is a secret agent, because otherwise this is pissing me off. So she's thinking about escaping on her own and coming back later because she needs to get proof against Tannen, no matter what it takes. Chapter 15. Once again, I found myself planning an escape, although this time it was from my own people. Yeah, except it's not really even your own people. It's your own military that you're apparently not even a part of. Got it. Anyway, they've been feeding her and watering her and all that, so it's not so bad comparatively. Obviously, Ahuna still does care about her, because otherwise, why is she doing all of this? It's helping her body recover, which is good. Like, the food isn't in super large quantities, but there's 3 meals a day, and that's actually probably best since she was starving. You need to reacclimate your food to sustenance a lot of times, so. And she can finally rest properly. She can finally rest properly because there is no like chains holding her down or whatever. It's very bold of them. I'd at least put something in her mouth to make her shut up. She's coming up with a plan of how to escape, and then Varna's here to visit her. She looks so much better. I had washed up as best as I could with the water in my room, although I still hadn't had a full bath as of yet. Clearly Varna had, her skin shining with a healthy, clean glow. I did my best not to be jealous of that. I take it you're being treated okay? I phrased it as a question, although I could see the answer well enough for myself. Another bout of jealousy surged that I did my best to ignore. It was not her fault Tannen didn't see her as a threat. If anything, I should be flattered, and maybe I would get an answer from him as to why he hated me so much. Maybe when I dragged him back to Ahuna in chains as proof that her trust in me had not been misplaced. It's weird for you to be jealous of this person who has been a victim for much longer than you. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. I don't like it. Also, just dragging him back is not proof, so I don't really understand that logic either, but okay, whatever. She asks Varna if she leaves her to her own devices if she'll be okay, and Varna's like, yeah, I'm doing great here. I'll be perfectly fine. My shoulders slumped with relief, so she did know what I was talking about, and she had all but given me her permission to leave without her. Well, like, why would she want to go with you when this is so much better than what she was dealing with before? Like, I wouldn't go back with you, no. She's thinking about how if the guards see them together too much, that they might be angry with Varna and accuse her of helping her escape. So yeah, you should probably not talk to her anymore. After that, there was nothing more to say. Varna left me. I didn't wait much longer after that before I decided to set my plan into action. Well, plan was a bit too generous of a term. There was a single window, barred, peering out into the empty courtyard. I hadn't seen anyone in that area for several days, which was as close to an abandoned escape route as I was going to find in the midst of a camp where so many soldiers and mages milled around. So we can see even when she is in her correct state of mind, eating, drinking, sleeping, she's an idiot. She doesn't have any plans. She's driving me bonkers. Like, oh my god. We also learn a little bit about this particular fortress, but it's really a lot of her like assumptions about how it was probably used for dignitaries before. She has no proof of this, so I don't know why we're saying it. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, there is a flower growing up from the mud toward the window. Is this gonna be heavy-handed and stupid? Yes. That flower deserved to live as much as I did, or maybe more. That poor thing had done its very best to grow despite its harsh conditions. I had to smile at it. It had certainly given me a lot to think about. If a flower so pale and stilted could grow in harsh conditions, did I truly have any reason to complain? I should take inspiration from it. I know that those are words, but what are you saying? What are you saying? Are you saying that I don't even know what you're saying? To be perfectly honest with you, I really hate all of this. Like, it feels like forced gratitude crap. Because like earlier she was like, well, at least I'm not Varna, or at least I'm not imprisoned in a horrible place like I was before. Now the prison's not so bad. And now she's like, oh, I should be grateful that my life is going better than this flower. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That flower is not in prison. I think the flower doesn't give a rat's ass. Whatever. She thinks about if like a guard in the courtyard had seen her, that she would have been in trouble or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really understand why it matters if you're reaching out to touch a flower when you clearly can't fit your body through the bars. I don't know why they care about that. Whatever. So there is a bench apparently pushed up against the wall below that she's probably going to try and use when she escapes. Okay, now all I had to do was wait for night to fall and then use my power to bust out of here. Hopefully not as difficult as I feared. I think it might be more difficult because you're not competent. I understand. I mean, I don't understand why you're not part of the military. Story-wise, it doesn't make any sense. However, I do understand why they wouldn't want you to be part of it. I don't think you're trainable. I don't think you can learn anything. I think that your brain is like the size of a stegosaurus's. I think if someone looked at your skeleton, they would think you also had to have a secondary brain in your pelvis because you're so stupid that there has to be more than just that, because no animal can be that stupid. God. Chapter 16. She uses her power to blow through the barred window. How? I don't know. I don't know how her powers work. I'm asking too many questions. She still has to force herself through the window, and she's like, I am skinnier because I wasn't eating, but if, like, I might not be able to get my shoulders through, but if I can get my shoulders through, then my hips are narrow enough that I can get through, because again, she's so teeny tiny skinny little baby. So she's trying to escape, trying to push herself through, and Varna comes and is like, well, I'm glad I caught you before you left. She's like, what are you doing here? I brought you this. I stole things here and there because I knew you would be leaving soon. I wanted you to have something to take with you. How long have they been in either of these prison situations? I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know why no one's watching Varna at this military base, just in case she is secretly evil. I don't know why they've been allowing her to steal things here and there. I couldn't tell you because this book is stupid. She takes it and Collie thinks she's a far better friend than I deserve, and I agree. I think she is. There's a cloak. There's a little bit of food and water. Nice of her. There's also some cheese. I always find it weird when they like pack the cheese. Cheese needs to be cold, doesn't it? I mean, unless it wasn't cold to begin with, and then I think it's okay. You would think I'd know that because I used to work in the dairy department, but I truly don't remember. It's fine. There's also a coil of rope, a shirt, a pair of pants, and a sheathed dagger, and Collie is getting very cryy about this because it's so nice. She's like, thank you, this means a lot to me. And Varna's like, I know. And she's like, go, I'm gonna try to distract the guards until you can leave. And that's way too nice of Varna because that is clearly compromising her position here, but whatever. And Collie's like, I wonder how she got into my room, let alone steal all that stuff, but I'm not gonna think too hard about it. I'm like, I think you should think harder. I think you should think harder. I do. So she's out. She's like scrambling onto the wall and trying to run because she can hear people. A hand closed around my ankle and the world spun as I was yanked backward. My arms flailed and I landed hard. A fist closed around my collar and hauled me back to my feet nearly the second I touched the ground. Magic surged into my hand, but I froze as the cool bite of a blade touched my throat. I raised my hands to my sides, letting my magic fade, and narrowed my eyes at the person pressing me against the wall. You again, I snarled. Legacy bared her teeth in return, her red hair whipping around her face. Her left hand still held my collar, while her right held the blade to my throat. Then down there a little bit further is my own people thought I was a traitor, and now I had to deal with her again. How did Legacy, an enemy soldier whose only magical power we know about, telling lies from truth when touching, how did she sneak into an enemy military base that Collie and Varna barely got into? How? Are we gonna find out? I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, she grabs her bracelet back because she's like, you won't be needing that anymore. And I'm like, okay. She ties up her wrists because she's like, you're not getting away from me. No, I hissed back, I can't tie myself up and you're going to have to drop the blade to do it yourself. I'm not going to help you kidnap me again. Fine, she snarled. Isn't the banter great? Isn't the banter great? Anyway, she ties up her wrists, but the magic is bothering her again, and she's thinking this. When I'd been in training, what training? We don't know because she's not part of the actual military. Ihuna had ensured we knew. Who's we? If you're not part of the military, who's we? Whatever. We knew that magic could cause pain, even if it was merely immobilizing magic. I had burns on my upper arms from that, and I'd nearly lost a finger to frostbite when someone had used ice magic rather than simple immobilizing magic. But legacies felt more like sitting in front of a warm fire on a cold winter night. Pleasant and almost relaxing. There's ice magic, but we don't know what kind of magic you do. Got it. She's like, what now? And she's like, well, now you're coming with me. Chapter 17. If Legacy had just let me go over the wall in the first place, we might have been okay. Instead, I got shot. I shouted in pain as the bolt caught my leg and I nearly fell off the top of the wall. We could never be so lucky. Legacy is like, let's go, we're going, as she has a cross bolt in the leg. It's like, how did you get into our fortress? Oh, I forgot this is how she got into the fortress. It's still stupid, in case you were wondering. The Montroses built secret tunnels into most Caputo fortresses years ago, she said. What? I hit secret tunnels.
Secret tunnel, secret tunnel, through the mountains, secret, 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 secret tunnel, yeah.
Fucking hate this book. What do you mean secret tunnels? What do you mean secret tunnels? How would they not notice? How would they not notice? Like, oh my god, whatever. They're now on a horse. Well, they come up to a horse, which is Legacy's horse, and she's like, yeah, the kind of tunnels you guys don't know about. Yeah, that's what secret means. That is what secret means. What are we talking about? Anyway, she's like, now we're being chased. We should focus on getting away instead. And so this is how they're set up. Legacy is facing the correct way on the horse. And then on the other side is Collie facing the horse's ass. Why would you do it this way? I don't know. It's fucking stupid. So somehow her sleeve, Legacy's sleeve, rips out Collie's crossbow bolt. I don't know how that's possible, but okay. Blood stained her hands from touching the wound and I smiled grimly, ironic to be certain. But the fact that my blood was literally on her hands did say something about the situation we were in and how we had been treating each other since we'd met. Is it ironic? Is it ironic? Or is it profoundly stupid? We could have already done the whole blood on our hands thing if we didn't do this stupid, like, why? We can put two and two together. She literally had your blood on her hands. We did not need you to point it out. Thank you. Thank you. My dad, who had, by the way, maximum a middle school education and a couple years of high school, could have figured that out. Could have figured that out for you. And he's an alcoholic. Still could have figured it out for you. So I don't understand why the author thinks we're even less with it than my dad. Collie tries to say, I need like help with my leg, and Legacy doesn't really know that her leg is hurt. She didn't really even look at the blood or anything, and she's just like, not now, we need to get away. We need to leave. Eventually the horse is no longer running, it's just kind of trotting, and she falls off the horse then, because of course. Now Legacy realizes, and they have this conversation. Why didn't you say something? She hissed. She sounded nearly frantic, but frustrated enough for my attitude to gather up some energy for a retort. I did, I muttered, tried, and you had my blood on your hands. Not my fault you didn't notice. I cracked my eyes open to look at her as her hands pulled away. In my agonized state, I wanted her to touch me, wanted her hands on me, and not just because I craved her warmth. My mind felt too hazy to try and decipher why that was. She stared at the dried blood on her hands and on her pants with a look I might have called horror if I didn't know better. You want her to touch you when she's kidnapped you twice and you don't know anything about one another. And you have much bigger problems going on right now, but does that matter? No. Of course it doesn't. Nothing matters because this book is stupid. I know I keep saying the word stupid. I can't think of anything though else. Like, it's so profoundly stupid that I don't know what else to say. It's just so stupid. She rips off the bottom half of her shirt to bind Collie's wound, which then just shows off her hot abs. Yeah, that's definitely what we care about right now. Not, you know, trying to figure out what the hell is going on in this terrible book. And she's like, you can't sleep because if you sleep now, you probably won't wake up. You have to stay with me. And Collie's like, as if I've had a choice. And then she like falls unconscious again because that's the only plot device this author knows about. Chapter 18. Someday soon I wouldn't wake up from my adventures. It was a grim thought, the only one in my head as I worked my way back to the land of the living. I'm surprised that you're not dead already. I'm so shocked. Aren't my neighbor's dogs great? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe so I don't have to live here forever. I had been through a lot in the last I wasn't even sure how long. Time seemed to have run together entirely. I had been blown up by magic, snatched by a giant bird, dropped, kidnapped by Legacy, dehydrated, starved, and beaten. Then I had used my magic to escape a feat in itself, nearly drowned, and gotten caught again. A slight lull, another escape, shot with a crossbow, and then captured again. All in all, that was what? At least 3 head wounds, maybe more. Perhaps my mind had been so thoroughly scrambled that I might never wake up again. Given the way my head felt now, it wasn't all that far-fetched. Girlfriend, you would be doing everyone a favor if you died. I need you to die expeditiously. I don't know if I've ever hated a character this much, except for maybe Penny from Penny for Your Heart, or Sundia from Avery Daniels' Off Limits. It's the same author too, so of course they're both annoying, but like, girl. Legacy knows she's awake and is like, I know you're awake. And she threw something at Collie and Collie's like, you threw something at me. Like she's a fucking toddler. Anyway, like I was hoping it was all a bad dream, and Legacy's like, it's not. It's like, why did you come after me? I have the sight. She said, I see things through touching, past, present, and future. I saw that you would be important, but even though I didn't know why, I had to come find you. Hope surged in my chest, but it was brought down by an arrow when she kept talking, and I was sent to find you. There it is, I said with disgust. The hard wood of the headboard dug into my back as I leaned against it and closed my eyes. I'd heard of the site before. It explained how Legacy had been able to find me, and perhaps why she had shown me something resembling kindness during my first captivity. Her vision showed her that I was important, but that didn't matter to her cause. There are no limits to this magic, apparently, even though allegedly you are only able to do magic through a gauntlet. She has not questioned at any point why there have now been 2 more people that she's met when she's never met anyone else that had powers that don't align with everyone else. She doesn't question why that is. She doesn't question what they're doing there, why the enemies happen to seem to have, I mean, twice as many as her side does, obviously, because she's the only one. She doesn't think anything intelligent. She doesn't ask any good questions. She just exists for some reason. I can understand why you're angry, but I'm tired of this endless war of people dying for reasons they can't even remember. And I think you're tired of it too. Am I wrong? She waited for my answer, and I opened my eyes and lifted my head to look at her. This war had been going on for longer than either of us had been alive. My parents had died because of it. I'd been fighting in it one way or another since I was old enough to be useful to Ahuna. Yet this was the first time anyone had ever asked me about my feelings on it. You're not wrong, I managed reluctantly. You will never shut up. You are constantly yapping. You never shut your mouth. And yet you've never told anyone? You've never told anyone that you don't like the war, that you think the war is stupid. I don't fucking believe you. I don't believe you. Anyway, they're in some kind of inn or something, and 2 serving girls come in with like buckets of water, and they're like perfectly in sync, and they just ignore her existence. When they're leaving after bringing in the water for the bath, Legacy gives them a ton of coins, and Collie is like, I see why they just ignore that you kidnapped someone now. Yeah, I don't. Because like, what kind of situation are we in that requires these maids to like take hush hush money and not ask too many questions about a kidnapping? We don't know what kind of state the world is in economically because of the war, because we never see any of it. We don't know why they would just be fine with it. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Legacy had clearly tended to Collie's wound because it's not all bloody and disgusting now that Collie's in the bed or whatever tied to it. She's like, you have a problem. And Legacy is like, why would I have a problem? It's like, because if you put up the screen, you have to worry about me escaping while you bathe. If you don't, you have to worry about me looking at you. That's the thing we're worried about. That's the thing we're concerned about, is getting a little peeky naked. You guys are soldiers. I'm sure you've seen people and... Oh wait, sorry, I forgot. Collie's not officially a soldier. She's just done all this training and is under the general and no one else cares. But she's not a soldier, guys. Anyway, well, Legacy's a soldier. You're telling me Legacy gives a shit if you see her naked? Doesn't make any sense. Chapter 19. It's like, it seems like Legacy would risk her life for a bath, and I can't even blame her. I want one so bad. I'm just like, girl, you do not shut the hell up. They're arguing back and forth. Do we get to hear the argument? No, because all we get to hear is Legacy barking, enough. Anyway, she takes what was remaining of her tattered, messed up shirt, and she decides to use it as a blindfold so that Collie can't look at her. But Collie at first is like, are you gonna gag me with that? And Legacy's like, I actually didn't consider that, but no, I wish I had. No, I wish I had. And you know what, girl? Same. And she's just like, I don't think a gag will last very long. And Collie's like, and you think this will? And she's like, yes, because if you keep it on when I'm getting in the bath and bathing, then you can take a bath after. So she lets her tie the cloth around her eyeballs. I don't think we know each other quite well enough for this yet, I mused, trying to hide the strain in my voice. Aren't you tired of being horny? Aren't you tired of not reading or writing any good books because you're too horny to function? This is not funny. This is just annoying and I fucking hate it. I hate it here. You know, I had never considered whether or not I enjoy being tied up, I blurted. Water sloshed, but it took a moment for Legacy to answer. And now? I do not, I said primly, folding my hands as well as I could with my wrists tied. Okay. So after a while, she just pulls the blindfold off and it just so happens to be right when Legacy is getting out of the water. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you looked at it, that was at almost exactly the same moment she decided to step out of the water. My eyes widened as I took in her lean frame. I only looked for a moment before I jerked my gaze away, but the outline of her body had imprinted on the back of my eyes. We were the same gender, so it wasn't as if she had anything that I had never seen before, but that didn't change the spark of heat in my lower belly, nor the fact that my throat felt too warm and full. She had curves where a hard life with little food had stripped me of any I might have had, my own frame more lanky than lean. Her long hair, dripping wet from the water, nearly covered her full breasts, and she'd already been wrapping a towel around herself, so I didn't see much more. Still, I was suddenly very glad I had taken the blindfold off when I had, even if I shoved that thought away. Where to begin? The same gender thing is weird. It's weird. Like, just because you know what, let's be real, genitalia looks like does not mean that you've seen that person, so it's all the same. Looking at yourself is not the same as looking at other people. This is fucking stupid. It is stupid. Legacy's like, I should have known I couldn't trust you. And she's like, you said to only leave the blindfold on when you were getting undressed and getting in the bath. You didn't say anything about getting out of the bath. That had not at all been my train of thought, but there was no way I would admit anything else to her. Flirting was one thing because both of us knew that it would never go anywhere until we could trust one another. I couldn't let her see how much she affected me. Flirting where? Where is the flirting? Where? And before you're like, it's enemies to lovers, the flirting is not. I love enemies to lovers. That's why I'm so angry about all these books saying things are enemies to lovers when they're not. Enemies to lovers is my favorite trope, unironically. I mean it. I am dead ass. This is not that. This is not that. Because, like, just read the Locked Tomb. Just read the Locked Tomb. Just read the Locked Tomb. You know, I decided as a reward for finishing all the Christmassy books that I'm gonna reread Dona because I deserve a treat. Part of me wants to do it right after this, but no, I gotta push through. The Christmas ones are gonna really get me. Collie's turn to be in the bath and she's like, I don't care if you watch. Of course you don't. You're getting horny at the idea of this woman who kidnapped you twice. I don't. Why would we think that you care? There's some arguing about the pants because she's like, you owe me a new pair of pants. And she's like, well, I didn't think you'd want me to cut you out of them because you weren't conscious. And then she's like, if you had listened to me the first time I told you I was injured, we might not have had that problem. How? The crossbow bolt went through your pants. Your pants are still ruined. So I don't understand why you are making a fit about the pants. Whatever. She also just thinks while she's in the tub that the injury wasn't a problem for Legacy. Like she hadn't cared about it until it was a problem for her. And I'm just like, yeah. But also she didn't know it existed. So how she didn't, I don't know. I don't know. You were screaming bloody murder. I don't know. But whatever. Legacy was nice enough to lay her out some nice new clean clothes. And she's like, we're about the same size. So it shouldn't completely fall off you when you put it on. They're allegedly about the same size, but Legacy is curvy. Sure. I believe you. Where are all the like 200 plus pound bitches like me? Where are they? I want to know. God. There was only one bed, so it wasn't as if I had another option. How many tropes that are overdone are we going to badly do in this book. All of them, apparently. She's like, how am I meant to sleep like this? Because she's all tied up, and Legacy is like, you'll figure it out. When Legacy is finally asleep, Collie steals the dagger that Legacy brought to bed, which was a dumb decision on her part, and she hides it under Legacy's pillow. Dumb decision on Collie's part, so that she can just grab it when she's actually ready to escape. Stupid all around. She does saw through the ropes on her wrists before hiding the knife. I was biding my time, but now at least I had a chance to escape. Did you? Did you? It is the next day. I have finished the book. Did it answer any of my questions? No. No, not in the slightest. So if you were hoping that I would be proven wrong just as much as I was hoping I would be proven wrong, we're all disappointed here. Okay, let's just get through this nightmare. If you say anything about my hair, either you're homophobic. I don't know what I'm doing with it. Chapter 20. So even though our friend Collie here sawed off her ropes and was planning on doing something with that knife, she still doesn't try to escape, and they've been riding for like hours in whatever direction that Legacy thinks is the best one to ride off in. They get to a massive fortress where Legacy's people are assumedly in, you know? But once again, something isn't right. Nothing about this book is right. So the fortress seems like too quiet and too weird, and then all of a sudden archers and mages appear like on the top part, you know, where people shoot people from in old-timey castles. Legacy throws up a shield, but this is probably not going to be enough overall. So for once, Collie makes a really smart decision, steals the horse, and goes off in the complete other direction because she's like, absolutely not. I don't want any part of this. They stop not too far away because the horse is very tired from carrying both of them. Bangs are driving me nuts. And it needs a break and it needs water. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, horse, that's my baby. I glanced back in the direction we had come and swallowed hard. I had been a captive again, about to be turned over to Legacy's superiors. I had every right to leave her. So why did it feel like a betrayal? Because she'd been attacked too for some reason? Do you want to guess where this is going? Yeah, she's deciding she's gonna turn around and go save Legacy. Why? I don't know. She just has some kind of fifis about it. I hate these characters, just so you know. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I don't care about any of them. Oh my god. She goes up and Legacy is still fighting off these bitches left and right, and she yells for Legacy to get down on the ground. Legacy does, and then she blasts these motherfuckers with a huge rainbow power of magic something, like a rainbow wave is how it's described.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
Just copying She-Ra now, I guess. None of the soldiers move. They're like all on the ground now, and she goes up to Legacy and like helps her up. She moves slowly, peeling herself onto her hands and knees before leaning back to look at me. Our eyes met and my cheeks flushed, but I refused to be the one to look away first. Yes, I was the one who had left her, but anyone else would have done the same. Meanwhile, I was also the fool who had come back. Whatever Legacy saw in my eyes, it seemed to satisfy her. She took my hand slowly, her grip warm and slick with blood as I helped her rise to her feet. She didn't let go, and I didn't either. I was strangely reluctant to move despite the blood on her hands and the silence between us. Moments later, she let go first and my face flamed. I did not meet her eyes again. Guys, I really need you to believe that I love romance. I truly do. I love romance, especially when it's in fantasy. I love fantasy and romance, but this is garbage. This is unearned. It's boring. It's stupid. It feels like a bunch of tropes lined up in a row and being like, oh, well, there's all of them, so you guys should enjoy. No, I don't enjoy any of them because you didn't write anything meaningful. You didn't write characters who are believable or interesting or good at anything, and you didn't write a relationship that made me root for it despite them being enemies. You just didn't. Like, So, she thinks to herself that her plan has not changed. Her goal is to track down Traitor Tannen and drag him back to Ahuna so he can tell her what he had lied about me. Why do you think that will work? Why do you think that he's just gonna tell the truth after he's been lying to literally everyone? That is one of the dumbest plans I've ever heard of in my life. She also worries because she sees like a big shadow overhead that Tannen's bird will see her and report back. I don't know how we figured out that it's Tannen's bird. There was never any like discovery of like tee-hee-hee, that's Tannen's bird. Like, I don't understand why she just jumped to that assumption. And it's because the author doesn't like stop and think like, what are things that I know versus what are things that the character knows? Just because you know something doesn't mean your character knows it yet. So like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyway, Legacy decides to talk about her vision where, you know, she had a vision before they were attacked, I guess, about why they were doing it. And if you're ready for some of the dumbest shit I've ever read, get ready. The advisors on both sides, she said, the one who spoke to you and one of mine as well, whose name I don't know. They don't want anyone to know that you escaped, so they came to kill us. Yeah, no shit. It's even worse. It's even worse. Collie is like, well, we are kind of on the same side now in her brain because her own people are trying to kill her, just like my own people are trying to kill me. And I'm like, that doesn't make you allies, you fucking weirdo. And she's like, if we hadn't been on the same side before, we were certainly getting closer to it now. Okay, all right. And you'd think they'd want Collie to be dead because she can do things with magic that isn't allowed. But that's actually not why. And we will find out later the reason why is fucking stupid. It's really dumb. Anyway, Legacy looks over at her and is like, you can do magic without a gauntlet, by the way. And Collie doesn't freak out that much about Legacy knowing that, but whatever. And Legacy is like, why did you come back? And Collie's like, I wish I knew. And I'm like, you know why. You know why. Chapter 21. They're just holing up in the fortress for the time being, and Legacy is once again asking, why are you still here? She didn't really give an answer. She just snorts, and yeah, that seems about right. Collie is cleaning a wound Legacy got. I don't really remember what it was, but whatever. And Legacy just like pulls her on the bed with her. I told you, I don't know. Best I can guess, we're on the same side, at least for now, because it seems like everyone wants to kill us, I pointed out. Her people in mind thought we were traitors. I was being hunted by Tannen because I knew he was a traitor. But because of him, Ahuna thought I was a traitor. I needed to bring him back to her in chains in order to clear my name, which was getting harder and harder. But unfortunately, I didn't have a better plan. Not only was I being hunted by my own people, but now Legacy and I were in danger because she knew about me and my escape. Apparently, Tannen had some sway on her side as well, or someone else did, because they were going to great lengths to ensure that no one knew about me because I could sniff out magic, or had they already known I could do magic without a gauntlet, even before Tannen's bird had flown over and possibly seen me. I tilted my head. You said the advisors on both sides. Do you know who it is on your side? Okay, so author, I don't like to address the author directly, really. I don't, but we're gonna just do it for a second. If you're here, you shouldn't be here. But if you are, I'm just come on, scooch in. So, you didn't have to write all of that about all the things that they've just been through and like why people might be trying to like kill her. We were there through every step of her reasoning, through every possible reason as to why they would want to kill her. And I don't need you to repeat all of it. We were there. I hope this helps. Oh, and while you're here, the reason they want her dead and to keep the war going is fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. So maybe work on that. Okay. Collie also thinks to herself, I don't know how her visions work and I should ask all these questions. I don't care. I don't care how her visions work. They're very clearly standard visions where like you can't control them and they're kind of vague. So how useful are they? I don't know. Legacy does know who it is on their side, but she doesn't know his name, and she asks, do you know who the person on your side is? And Collie reveals that it's Tannen. Legacy asks how she knows his name, and she's like, well, I met him before with the general and he told me his name. Legacy kind of takes a little stop for a second. She's clearly trying to like think, and Collie is not patient, and so she starts bothering her immediately, and she's like, I'm just thinking, okay? And she's like, share, I want to know too. And I'm like, you gotta give people a second to finish their thought. She says that she's starting to understand her visions a little better and that they're starting to make more sense now. She's like, our own people have turned against us because of what we can do and what we know. I think it's more about what you know, because actually the magic using shit doesn't seem to matter at all. And Collie's a little bitch and is like, it took you this long to realize they're using us. I hate her. Anyway, yes and no. It's taken me this long to put together what my visions have been showing me. It doesn't make me feel any better to know that we are being used as weapons by people we should trust. I can't trust anyone. Yeah, I mean, like, it would have made sense if one or either of these characters actually was really into the military because it provided a community and a stable kind of life. That's something that doesn't make sense about Collie's character, is that she has pretty much no positive feelings about the military, except she's like, you should be on the front lines, murking people left and right. That's where the real real action is. And I'm like, I don't understand you. I don't understand you because you're allegedly not actually in the military despite you knowing all of this military information. And you also don't really have any real comrades. You don't have any real ties that would make you not want to question why you're doing certain things. And so I don't get it. I truly don't understand it. Whatever. Collie says you can trust me, at least for now. And I'm like, I wouldn't trust you to bathe a dog. Why on earth would I trust you with anything? I was the closest thing she had to a friend, as unfortunate as that truth was. And the same was true for me. Get wrecked, Varna. She completely forgot about you already. Also, what's the point of Varna's character? I don't know. We're gonna talk about it later, but there's like no point. No point to really anything that happens in this. They hear some kind of noise outside and Collie's doing like logistics in her brain, being like, I'm still kind of down from like the fight before, but I guess we can try to take them, whatever. She looks at Legacy and she's like, well, whoever it is, we don't have much time, so we should try to come up with a plan. Why? You never actually plan and all your plans are shit. Chapter 22. It's not more soldiers. It's a caravan of people who were coming to probably sell things or whatever, and instead they were greeted to like a ton of bodies on the ground. Collie thinks that this is good news because she's like, okay, now we can just like join up with them and we can ride with them till we get closer to the next area. Where are they going? What are they doing? I don't know, because they're clearly not turning Collie in anymore. So I don't know where they're going or what they're doing, because we're never let in on whatever their alleged plans are. They grab some things that are useful and they go down. These people from the caravan are not overly worried about all the dead bodies that are on the ground. They don't really seem to care that much. Legacy and Collie open the big gate of the fortress for them so that they can come right on in. And Collie says, we mean you no harm, except that she looks over at Legacy and she's like, oh, Legacy's still covered in blood. That might not look so hot. And I'm like, yeah. No shit. The woman that they're talking to is like, okay, glad to hear it. What are your names? This woman seemed far more trustworthy, although I would be the first to admit that I wasn't always the best at realizing who I could and couldn't trust. But I was getting better, mostly. You're not getting better at anything. You're literally teaming up with your enemy, which I know is kind of the point, but in this it doesn't feel earned or like it makes any sense. And then you trust this random woman, you trusted Varna right away. Like, you are not a good judge of character. And that's okay, but we should just fucking admit it. Just being like, I'm not always the best. You're never the best. You're not even in the top 10, girl. What are you talking about? Dora, the leader of the caravan, is who they're talking to, and a dog runs toward them when, you know, she whistles because she's like, my name's Collie, and they're like, I know why you're named that. And I'm like, oh my god, shut up about the dog thing. Stop it. Legacy was covered with blood, and although I wasn't, I knew myself well enough to know that I didn't look like the most trustworthy person in the world. It came from growing up as a thief, I suppose, but it wouldn't help convince Dora that we would be a welcome asset to their traveling party. Why didn't we learn anything more about her thieving as a child? Why didn't we learn anything about any of her past, really, except that her parents are dead? Because this author apparently doesn't seem to think it's pertinent, which is dumb because that explains how you act. And the reason why Collie doesn't act like a real person ever is because the author never thinks about how her past would have actually affected her. She just wanted to write a quirky, silly, powerful girl, but she didn't want to think about why Collie would be that way. Dora says, whatever happened here, we don't want to know. You two were clearly outnumbered, so they probably deserved it, whatever it was. We don't care. She's like, we're not friends of either side of this war, but we get the sense that this was justified. How she gets the sense of that, I don't know. I don't know. Legacy comes up and is like, we're no threat to your people, da 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 da. Like, we need a companion to travel with and we won't be a bother and we'll peel off as soon as we can. And Dora's like, that's okie dokie, but if you cause any danger to my people, then we're just gonna drop you because we don't want any part of this. They're like, okie dokie. And then Legacy is like, we don't have horses though, so we're gonna have to figure something out. And Dora's like, that's fine, come on down, let's go. Collie briefly thinks about how she killed all of those soldiers. I had come to acknowledge that I had done more than knock them out with my magic, and I forced myself not to vomit at the thought of how many people I had killed. I hadn't meant to kill anyone, but I hadn't had a choice. I was only trying to protect myself and Legacy, and yet that burst of magic had taken out a lot of people. I had killed before, but never so many at once. I don't really get why you care about killing when in the beginning you were literally like, these loser guards never see the front lines, they're such losers. Like, you clearly liked doing your job, which apparently wasn't even your job because you're allegedly not a soldier. So I don't understand why now you're trying to take the moral high road and be like, I didn't mean to kill them. It was self-defense, blah, blah, blah. You don't care. And it's one thing to like finally see the horrors of war and the horrors of the thing that you are committing. That's not what this is, because she's just spending the entire time justifying it. So it's not about that at all for her. It's just, I don't know, and it doesn't fit her character because she literally has never cared. Never. Dora's people are going to put all of the dead bodies in the fortress, and they're like, okay, but we're gonna be stealing from the fortress, so like that's fine, but sleeping in there isn't. And she's like, hey, we don't pick sides, and stealing from it, harder to prove depending. Them catching us sleeping at a conquered fortress with a bunch of dead bodies does look like we picked a side. It does. It looks like we did the thing. And I'm kind of like, yeah. They're also worried about like the spirits from the bodies. I don't know. Ghosts being in this world? Okay then, because we don't know how the magic works. We don't know anything about the giant bird. We don't know anything about the magical elements. So like, why would we try to learn anything else? We find out that Dora has a wagon that it's like a spare wagon that has stuff in it. And that's where they're going to sleep and just stay while they're traveling. And they're going to help the caravan steal from the fortress as part of their payment and have like give them magical protection until they leave. Okie doke then. They're finally done after all of that, and we are stuck once again in the only one bed trope, which went nowhere last time and I'm pretty sure goes nowhere this time too. Thank fuck. I sank onto the bed and rolled over, almost too tired to think about the fact Legacy and I were going to be sharing a bed once again. Almost. So stupid. So stupid. Like, I don't care about this. This doesn't do anything for me. Legacy tells her to go to bed. And so she does. And that's how we end the chapter, thank God. Chapter 23. We didn't spend long with the merchant caravan, less than a day, in fact. One of the things that I hate about this book also is that all of the beginning sentences ruin the rest of the chapter. Because it's not like they say that and then we move on, right? No, they say that, then we see a lot of the stuff that's experienced and then them leaving or whatever. So like, it's fucking stupid. It's a waste of my time. Whatever. Collie talks about how this is like the most relaxed and happy she's been in a long time, which is very sad. It's very sad, and I almost kind of wish this caravan stuff had happened earlier because then we could have actually had some disillusionment with the military. That's not what this is about though. Eventually they get to some ruins and they're going to stop there, and this is where Legacy and Collie peel off from the caravan and don't come back with them. They thank them for all the crap they gave to them before they peel off, and they're like, if we don't come back, don't worry about it. And they're like, okay. Collie can feel the innate magic of this place, blah, blah, blah. I thought you smelled magic, not felt magic. I thought feeling magic was frickin' Varna's whole bag, but apparently not. Whatever, we don't care about whose power's whose because this book is dumb. They're apparently kind of tracking like the magical signatures of the advisors, which was not abundantly clear to me. And they're like, well, they were here, so at least we know where they've been, so we can keep. And I'm like, I don't really understand this. They're advisors for separate countries, I think. So like, why wouldn't you try to catch them in like one of the parliamentary sessions or whatever? Like, I don't understand why we're doing this. But Legacy is having another vision. Huzzah. She reaches out to Collie for support, and Collie is like so flattered by this. She thinks it's great. Like, but also her reaching out for support proves that something is wrong. And her vision is basically like Tannen and the other advisors used this place before to do like weird magical rituals, but I don't know their purpose. Do we ever find out the purpose? Not really. She then says, and I saw something else, and Collie's like, what? She's like, we're surrounded. She's like, don't you think you could have told us that a bit sooner? And she's like, trust me, I wish that I could control these freaking visions, but I can't. So Legacy gives her a gauntlet to use, because also we learned that the gauntlet and the bracelet both allow the amplification of magic. I didn't really get that from Legacy's bracelet, so again, kind of really purpose. It's devoid of purpose, I suppose. And also like there are all these like ways you can channel magic or use magic, but magic is rare, but it's also not, and people are using magic 24/7, but it's rare for people to use magic. And I'm like, okay, so then where is the magic coming from if it's rare but people are using it 24 hours a day? I don't understand. So they're surrounded. The men are like, don't move. And then Collie's like, so are we going to be taken again, or are we gonna fight? And Legacy's like joking, is like, if you get a crossbow bolt again, you'll have to take care of that first, lol. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we saying? Who are we what are we doing? This is not banter. Collie says, we're gonna make a run for it, but you can't be mad if I miss a bolt or two with the shield or whatever. And Legacy's like, that's the best you can do. We probably won't die. If you'd like to try to stop what is likely going to be a hail of arrows, please feel free, I muttered. Fine, let's do this. It's not banter, it's just annoying. It's just annoying. It's not good. She uses the gauntlet to make like a magical shield, which protects them from all the arrows. Legacy is also taking out some people with her magic. It's arcing. I don't understand why the magic can do all these things. I don't understand why the magic can be ice and make explosions and be bottled somehow. But there's also spells we're gonna learn, and that was never a thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I know that's just my mantra of this video, but it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, they eventually get away, and Collie holds up the shield long after they've gotten away. And then Legacy, all sassy like, is like, fine, I guess not letting us get shot by a bunch of arrows is enough. And then Collie bows like a fucking tool. I feel like her character is trying to do too much. I feel like she's trying to be the class clown with the terrible abusive childhood and the military darling of like the general and like all this other stuff. And I'm not saying it like can't be done, because it can be done, but not like this. Not like this. Now in chapter 24, you want to guess what she does? Does she make a stupid joke? Does she blow what's gonna happen in the chapter already? Or does she pass out again? She passes out again. That's what. It's because she was tired, and Legacy lifts her head and puts something beneath it for her to sleep with. And Legacy is also like, how are you feeling? You should have told me if you were this tired. Like, could have laid down. And Collie's like, I'm sorry. And Legacy's like, I'm not mad. I was just concerned. I opened my eyes, and this time I sat up fully, searching her face for ... I didn't know what. Who had ever been concerned about me before, let alone a girl who had started out as an enemy? A strange journey for us, to be sure, but not one I regretted at all. Maybe it was relief that Legacy had shown me the closest thing to affection I'd had in years, or some small bit of madness brought on by my exhaustion, but a fierce desire to kiss her suddenly overcame me, so I did. Hi. We're just gonna have to keep plowing on, because like I can't stop at everything that irritates me. Legacy was not expecting that, so she kind of like is frozen, and Collie pulls away as like, oh, I'm so sorry, that was a terrible idea, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a tendency to do very foolish things, I blurted, and then I realized immediately afterwards that was a bad idea, so let's just ignore that ever happened. Yeah, you do really stupid ass things, you do for sure, yeah. Legacy pulls the old-fashioned, you talk too much, and then pulls her in again for a kiss. At one point, Collie pulls away and says, we shouldn't do this, but it's not convincing to anybody. Legacy thankfully isn't a creep on top of everything else and is like, do you want to stop? But Collie doesn't want to stop, so she's like, no, I don't want to stop, but I do want to talk about what this means for us after. And Legacy is like, it means I care about you, silly, but more than that, we can talk about that later. And I'm like, silly, ugh. Let me get some truly awful descriptions of some things. So Legacy pulled away slightly, her eyes locking with mine as if searching for a hint of hesitation. She'd find none in me. I was all in. When I gazed back at her, raw emotion reflected in those deep pools of green, as well as a yearning that matched my own. The passion between us cracked like electricity from an exposed live wire, making my skin tingle and my heart race into a fevered gallop. You guys have electricity? I've seen no indication of that, so it just feels anachronistic. Whatever. They're gonna have the sex, and it's not great. So I'm just gonna do the highlights like I've been doing. I'm not gonna go everything by everything because it's dumb. And if you want to read the sex scene, you can, but I would not recommend paying the $4.99 for this book. Finally, our clothes now gone, she reached the source of my desires, her fingers gently parting the lips of my womanhood. The moisture that had been building inside me pulled around her fingers, and the sight of her moonlit face, her eyes half closed in unbridled lust, drove me wild. Parting the lips of my womanhood. And then describing the moisture and saying the word moisture is despicable. It's so disgusting. No. Let's go over some highlights of some other gross things that were said, or just kind of repetitive and boring because like other romantasy does this all the time. So we've got strings of pleasure. Ew. We also have, I was wound tighter than a bowstring, just on the edge of that precipice. So we got precipice, bowstring. I feel like I've heard these multiple times at this point. It's very boring. Then we also have when Collie decides to reciprocate her most intimate parts Ew. They are both so happy. They both get off. It's the best sex to ever sex. Good for them. Yay. And then Kali looks like she's like looking all weird and we get this bullshit. Legacy's dark eyebrows cocked. What is it? I realized why the advisors are doing what they are. I told her power. She nodded. We already knew that, but you seem to have something else to point out. Not just power from the magic itself. By merging the advisors on both sides of the war, they can ensure that this war will never end and that they will always have power, always be on top, always have a way to control both magic and the power of the Montrose and Caputo kingdoms themselves. What? What are you even talking about? Like, it's moved beyond apparently they're just being traitors, but like their advisors are both in cahoots to control all of the magic and keep the war going forever. But we don't learn how the war is profitable to them. We don't learn how they get more magic because of the war. We don't learn any of this crap. We don't learn any of it. It doesn't make any sense why they would want this war to go on forever when wars are prohibitively expensive. They've always been. They've always wasted more resources and lives than what anyone could fucking lose, so it doesn't make any sense. Legacy, for some reason though, thinks that this is smart and is like, well, now we know and we're gonna plan against it. You guys don't know how to plan shit. So she had said we, with no hesitation whatsoever. I was not the last resort for her, not an enemy or a reluctant ally anymore. We were a pair and she had acknowledged it. It made my heart warm. Yeah, it's making mine shrivel up and die. Chapter 25. They have been walking together in companionable silence and they don't have much of a plan. Still, what little bit of a plan we did have consisted of returning to Ahuna's camp and me sneaking inside so I could warn her about Tannen and the other advisors. Yes, Ahuna had held me captive, but with all that had been happening lately, it seemed like that wasn't the deal breaker that it could have been for me. After all, Legacy had kidnapped me twice already, and I'd done far more with her than I ever had with Ahuna. How strange had my life become that kidnapping was something I could just let go of, as if it had never happened. That is weird of you. It is weird, and I don't really understand, because at this point in the book you've been a prisoner 3 separate times, so it doesn't make any fucking sense. They get back to Ahuna's fortress. However, she's like, oh my god, there's something wrong, and there's like a big plume of smoke. When is anything right when they show up at these fortresses? They're literally the problem. They run up to it and Legacy is like, what happened? And all the people just appear to be gone, and she's like, oh no. Legacy looks towards the woods though and is like, there are survivors, and immediately Kali feels very relieved by this. She saw that with a vision though. She didn't actually see like a hole in my eyeball. Ugh. She sees a vision. She's like, there are survivors. I think I can find them if that's what you want. I nodded after only the slightest bit of hesitation. We had come here to find Ahuna and that hadn't changed. Okay, good for you guys. I wish you would leave Ahuna alone. They find the other survivors almost immediately. The survivors didn't know it was them and had shot an arrow at their feet quickly. Kali says, we mean no harm. Ahuna comes and says, wait, and a few of the other survivors step out of the trees with her. They follow Ahuna so that they can talk to her privately. So they're after you, Ahuna said. I whipped toward her. I had expected that we would have to work to convince her that we meant her no harm, that we would have to explain who was after us and why, but apparently she knew more than we had given her credit for. You know? I asked. Yes, people I know from both sides, she explained, including Tannen, my commander. My jaw dropped because she already knew so much. Legacy cocked her eyebrows. They thought I helped you escape, Ahuna continued. That's why they came after us. I'm sorry, I said. It didn't feel like enough. But what else could I say? Ahuna nodded. I know you didn't mean for this to happen. I've known you long enough to know that you would never do this intentionally. But you have to know that you can't stay with us. And then Ahuna goes on to be like, I don't know what your plans are, but you can't be here. She's like, I have to take the survivors to another fortress and try to explain our situation, report what happened here. She's like, I wish you luck. Good luck, you two. You're on your own. All those years together and she was just leaving me here to deal with this on my own? Was it because she didn't trust Legacy, our enemy? I think maybe it's because she has other shit to do and you're not the only person who depends on her. Yeah, I think that might be it. Kali then worries that like, is trusting my enemy a mistake? What am I doing? And I'm like, it's a little late to be worried about that. Chapter 26. And then we don't even get to see what makes Ahuna decide in chapter 26 that she wants to help them. She's just helping them now. Okay. They are having Hyuna pretend that she captured them because they need someone that the advisors will believe turn them in. Hyuna believes this is a terrible plan. I agree with her. I don't think this is much of a plan. Kali's like, the only terrible part of this plan is Legacy insisting on coming with me, and Legacy's like, I'm not letting you do that alone. And honestly, I think that's smart because Kali's not good at anything. Hyuna says that they're ridiculous as they're bickering. I agree. Hyuna was far less gentle with Legacy than she had been with me, which I wasn't sure how to feel about. True, our history meant she was more likely to be kind to me, but despite myself, I did care about Legacy. I didn't want her to be hurt, and even these small slights irritated me to no end. She is an enemy soldier of the country that you and your people have been fighting your entire life, and you're surprised that Hyuna doesn't just love her because you do when you're a raging idiot who is terrible at judging character. I don't want to hear it from you. I don't. Kali goes on to be like, we might be ridiculous, but we're doing this for the right reasons. Are you? I think you're being annoying as hell. Personally. And Hyuna's like, you would have me give you over to save myself. And Kali's like, no, I'm giving myself over, obviously, because I know you never would. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. I think maybe she should give you up, personally. They get to whatever fortress we're at now, and she's like, I'm General Hyuna, and I have these prisoners for Tannen, and it takes them a minute to go get Tannen. He comes, he's like, oh, I wasn't expecting you or for you to bring me prisoners. And Kali's all like, of course you wouldn't, because you sent soldiers to kill her. And she like thinks this and blah, blah, blah. We know, we were there, thank you. Thank you. I don't need your input about every single thing. Hyuna says the people under my command don't deserve to die because of these two. And I actually do agree with that. Anyway, the gate opens because Tannen's like, yeah, bring them on in. Legacy and Kali put up like a fake fight to convince Tannen that they are actually being captured because they have to play the part, I guess. As soon as they're like in the fortress, they rip their bound wrists apart and they start going apeshit. She makes like a wall of magic and is kind of blocking Tannen in after she knocks all of the other soldiers into the wall, which she's not really great at controlling her powers, so my opinion is they're dead. But Legacy runs around stealing the weapons from the soldiers. She gives Kali one knife but keeps the bigger knife and is like, I get the big one but I can share. I'm generous like that. There's not a single likable character in this. Not a single one. Kali is like, okay, you're gonna tell us who you're working with to keep this war going. And he's like, and if I don't? And she's like, okay, then we'll kill you and we'll track down your co-conspirators. She's like, your choice. And he's like, actually, I want option C. And she's like, there is no option C. But JK, he has a gauntlet on. He like surges some power into Legacy. She's all knocked over. Tannen is laughing like an evil villain while he's like, there's always a plan C. Chapter 27. So Tannen and his soldiers have pushed Legacy and Kali through these like tunnels, I think, into the dungeon. They're attacking with offensive magic back at Tannen and his soldiers, but the problem is that the shooting magic is starting to put holes in the ceiling. Kali's like, we need to run for the tunnels. No more magic, she yells. Legacy says, I'm behind you. Kali has not made it out of the tunnels yet, as Legacy is trying to get out of the tunnels also, though. She is stabbed between her ribs. Like, actually, it's more like her sternum, so I don't really know why it says it's between her ribs, because she clutches at her chest and not like down here. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's whatever. Anyway, Tannen is still here and he's fighting her with magic and the gauntlet. So she tells Legacy to get down again, and then she discharges pent up magic in a cataclysmic blast, a shockwave of force that tore through the ranks of our enemies, scattering them like leaves in a gale to the ground. The blast hailed down more dust and rocks from the ceiling. So she basically brought the tunnel down, but she also didn't really. And then Tannen is fine and he's like, oh, the magic sniffer in all her glory. And I did kind of like that. It was like the magic sniffer in all her fading glory. Kind of enjoyed it. I don't know. Quite the show you put on, he taunted, an ugly smirk twisting his lips. Did you really think you could change anything? You're nothing but a broken toy in a game too grand for your understanding. Broken, maybe, I rasped, summoning a defiant grin despite the agony lancing through me. But I'd rather be a discarded plaything than a puppet on strings like you, Tannen. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of this? Because I am. They keep arguing and she's like, better a passionate heart than a hollow one. I'm like, okay. You're both hopefully gonna die though. I mean, they're not, but a girl can dream. Tannen tries to be like, do you want to join my side? Like, it would be better for you. And she's like, what? So you can use me for my magic? I would wear you down in less than a day with how annoying I can be. That's true. It would take about an hour. I promise. Anyway, she uses her magic again. Just as Legacy made it into the tunnel, I poured everything into this moment. The camaraderie, the kisses, the touching, and our unlikely relationship. All the emotions that I'd bottled up exploded outward in a blinding surge of brilliance. Collie, Legacy cried. The blast detonated with the fury of 1,000 storms, a radiant tempest that swept across the hall and snuffed out all the torches. Collie! Legacy's voice was the last thing I heard before the ceiling buckled.
She's dead!
She is. These are the moments that make life worth living.
If only she was dead. Chapter 28. Of course she's not dead. I hate it. She is back at one of the fortresses in like a bedroom. She has been wounded quite a bit. She's worried about Legacy and is wondering if she's safe. The door cracks open and it is one of like the Caputo men. She's on the Caputo side of the war. He brings her some like a letter and says like, the general asked me to give this to you as soon as you were awake. Legacy is dead by her own hand. In her final breath, she asked to be buried next to Collie, last name unknown, of the Caputo kingdom. Arrangements are being made to deliver the body in the coming months. The words hung in my mind, heavy and suffocating. A cruel joke, surely. A small object tumbled from inside the rolled parchment. A silver bracelet, one that had graced Legacy's wrist against her pulse. The one I'd stolen and the one she'd stolen back. It was delivered by Montrose a few weeks ago. The messenger said, his voice a distant echo against the walls closing in around me. What a stupid thing. Do you want to bet right now with me if she's dead? Because I'm just gonna spoil it for you. She's not dead. This is stupid. Collie is freaking out and is like, are you certain it's real? And he's like, I saw the messenger myself with my own eyes. I did. Like, it's true. She's like, thank you, I guess. And he's like, my name's Tim, which again, how are the names made in this? I don't know. She cries herself to sleep, and when she wakes up, the general is here. She asks how Collie's feeling and she's like, is this real? Can you tell me if this letter is real? You know Legacy better than anyone. Does this sound like her end? I don't know, I admitted. On one hand, she'd never let them win like that. On the other hand, she thought I was dead. A lot of us thought that, Collie. We weren't sure you were going to pull through. Your injuries were ... She sighed and shook her head. I'm sorry. Legacy and I were ... We were ... I began, my insides squirming like a sack of eels. Why do you know what a sack of eels is like? Ahuna kind of realizes as they continue to talk that they were lovers now, and she's like, oh, you were in love with her, she was in love with you. Got it. And she's like, so she probably just couldn't bear the thought of life without you. And Collie is very upset by this, and she's like, I was trying to save her. She was like, I'd been stabbed in the heart. I thought I was gonna be dead anyway. I did what I thought I had to do. And she's like, yeah, well, Tannen's still alive and that's not really your fault, but he is. And she's like, I never told her how much. I'm like, yeah, I know.
は知らないんだ。君と一緒にいることで僕がどれだけ幸せだったか。
You want to be Utena so bad. You could never be her. Never. Ahuna is like, okay, then fight for her, fight with all the love and the grief in your heart, yada yada. And Collie's like, I'm tired of fighting this stupid war. And Ahuna's like, me too, same Z's. Like, so maybe we can find a way to end it. Collie's like, what are you saying? What does it sound like? We also learn, because Tannen came to her to see if Collie was dead or not and all this, and she lied and said that she was, that Tannen is like overly interested in her, is interested in your abilities. And she's like, abilities plural, yeah. And she's like, yeah, your ability to sniff magic and your ability to do magic without a gauntlet. And she's like, you knew about that? And she's like, I knew the whole time. And I'm like, so what was the point of any of this? I really hate that kind of a reveal when it's so stupid. And she's just like, I've known you for a long time. You're not good at keeping secrets. And I'm like, that's true. That's the truth. That's the truth right there. Tannen and a few of the other advisors only seem to be in the war for themselves. We're going to rip the mask off these treacherous advisors and potentially end the war. We need a plan. We need evidence, something that'll stick to their slick hides like tar. Also allies. There are those within Tannen's own ranks who've grown tired of his scheming. I'll gather the allies. You can do do the sneaking and finding, and when the time's ripe, I'll capture you and deliver you straight into the snake's den because that worked so well the last time. I'll be sure to have more surprises up my sleeves this time though, and you have to promise not to bring a whole fortress down on top of you to defeat him. When you're up for it, of course. I'm just like, we're doing another kidnapping prisoner situation? That's like 4 or 5 in this book. It's so boring, it's so repetitive. Anywho, I'm not sure if he thinks you're dead or not, but he won't expect someone like you to come at him a second time. Someone like me, I swallowed thickly impulsive, rebellious, and capable of starting a brawl in an empty room. Yes, someone like you, Ahuna said, placing a hand on my shoulder. May fortune favor your boldness, Collie. I had a sharper weapon than boldness. I had a grudge. So why? Oh my lord. So it takes her several weeks to be strong enough to like get out of bed again. Yay. She's like, it will take an infinite amount of time to heal my shattered heart though. You barely knew her. What's her favorite food? What rank is she in the military? Do you know? I don't. Anyway, she's feeling numb and playing all the what ifs in her brain. I don't care. They're finally ready. Ahuna's like, are you sure you're ready tonight? And Collie's like, better now than never. She tells her to be careful. She says, I'll see you soon, Ahuna. Somewhere above, Tannen's predator bird surely circled, its keen eyes searching for prey. Come and find me, I whispered, a challenge to the wind that carried my words away into the night. Taking a deep breath, I set off down the hill, armed with my grief and fueled by a determination that burned hotter than the fiercest forge. Legacy, I whispered, her name and incantation for you. I will end this. So I thought she was gonna try to be captured by the bird again, but I was wrong. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. I don't really, whatever. The logic here, weird. Chapter 29. She's in the woods and she's looking for some bait to trick the bird. She kills a deer. Ooh, all right. And then she skins it and she starts like roasting it on a spit to try and lure the bird. We also learn some more backstory at 76% through this book. When I was an orphan living on the streets, I'd had to quickly learn to cook rats to survive. My first time hadn't worked out. My second time didn't either. The third time I came prepared with a rusty bucket. I named the rat Dinner. I never got around to eating it though. I run off with it to a secret spot behind an old shack where the walls shielded me from the wind. I'd watched the other orphans enough times to sort of know what to do next. My hands shaking from hunger, I'd gathered some twigs to start a fire with my flint, skinned the rat with my only knife, and skewered the rat on a metal rod I'd scavenged. Just as the aroma of roasting rat began to fill the air, I realized Dinner and I weren't alone. Another orphan had followed, his nose straight to us. A burly kid with cheeks perpetually red from the cold and a mean streak as long as the river. Without a word, he lunged forward and snatched the skewer. With tears streaking my face, I watched helplessly as my hard-earned dinner became a prize for someone else. My stomach had growled so loudly, mocking me for my failure. Catching and cooking a rat had seemed like the hardest part. I'd had lots of practice since then keeping my dinners for myself, but today I'd gladly share it with the giant bird. This is so stupid. Okay then, thank you for that backstory at 77% through this book. 77% through this book. Eventually, the bird does come to steal the deer. So when the bird swoops low enough after a bit, she uses a magical net of shimmering tendrils. Why can the magic do literally anything? I hate it here. I wish there were clear rules. I wish there was. I'm just turning into Reads with Rachel. Reads with Rachel, save me. Anyway, she and the bird are kind of fighting, and at one point the bird falls into one of her traps that she set that's in the ground. She's like, have you ever heard of gravity? And I'm like, yes. God. The bird does get out. She pretends to be weakened and then she hits the bird with a huge blast of magic and the bird drops to the ground dead. She's so happy. Yay, she did the bird hunting mission. Legacy, I thought, wiping a stray tear from my face. I would another day without you. Okay. Chapter 30. She meets with Ahuna. So Ahuna actually found like the actual letter and she's like, can you tell me about the guy who delivered this letter to you? And she's like, why? And she's like, just tell me. And she describes him and then says his name is Tim, which I suppose is a bit too ordinary. Ahuna's like, describe him. And she describes him. I don't have a messenger in my camp named Tim, not among my scouts, not in my ranks. She's like, what? But he was real. The parchment is real. And she's like, hey, we've discovered a lot of underground tunnels under the fortresses and the camps. And so despite the armor, he's probably not one of ours. He's probably one of the Montrose. She says this reeks of deceit and manipulation. And she's like, also look at the seal closely. Like it's just kind of a glob of wax. It's not really what it's supposed to be with like the nice seal, right? She's like, the edges of the wax are too rough. The crest is a little bit off. It's like not right. She's like, it's shoddy work. It's not really probably a message from the Montroses. Like why would they use such shoddy stuff? She's also like, sending a dead Montrose to be buried with a Caputo is unheard of. Like I don't see how they could make any arrangements for that because they've never done it. It's unheard of with the war and everything. And she's like, well, why would they do that then? And she's like, well, to destroy you so that maybe you would just like do it yourself to be with her, you know, or to make you so upset that you'd be easy prey. She's like, I'm not really sure. And yet I haven't given up, I replied numbly. Huna's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile fleeting across her stern features. And yet you haven't. There's too much hope in you. Hope is for the well-rested and the foolish, I tossed back, handing the parchment back to her. I'm neither, but I am stubborn. She smiled, a genuine one with warmth and a touch of sadness. So you are. So she's like, oh my god, could Legacy be like alive? And Huna's like, Collie, how do you feel about kind of seeking for the truth ourselves? And she's like, with your magic? Okay, well apparently Huna can track people with magic. Okay, don't know why she didn't do that when Collie was imprisoned, and then she could be like, oh yeah, you were imprisoned. Like, anyway, the air thickens. I hate how many of these books say that the air thickens. What do you mean? That's disgusting, first of all. And second of all, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Anyway, she can't track Legacy and she's like, I'm really sorry, Collie. Collie starts freaking the hell out and he's like, why would you do that? Why would you get my hopes up? And she's like, you can't just play with me like this. I have real feelings. I'm a real person. And Ahuna's like, I'm sorry, Collie. Like, I would never. And she's like, I realize now I could have handled this better. I'm really sorry. I should have tried to track her without you to make sure first before I brought this to you. I'm really sorry. She's really upset and she thinks this, which doesn't make any sense to me. I think because she's trying to be like, I need to contain my emotions, I think is what we're trying to draw here. But she's really just freaking out about how like, I was always expected to be obedient. Yeah, but you never were. And eventually people stopped expecting it of you. So I don't understand why you're throwing a fit about that, but whatever. She says, fine, I accept your apology. We need to finish this. And Ahuna's like, are you sure? Like you can take all the time you need. Tannen took my love away from me. Now I want to take everything away from him. Okay then. She conceded. I'm like, yeah, all right. They set up camp for the night. It's fine. And then Ahuna gives us her backstory with her love interest, Charlotte. And we are 81% into the book. So it's kind of crazy that it, whatever, lore drop, I guess. Charlotte was ... She was everything to me. We met when we were young, just teenagers studying to be high mages. She was so full of life, so passionate about everything. Ahuna's voice, usually so fierce and determined, was filled with a deep, aching sorrow. We fell in love and for a while it was perfect, but my parents ... They didn't approve. They had their own plans for me and Charlotte didn't fit into them. They tried to separate us, but we were stubborn. We thought love was enough. Then one day Charlotte was gone. An illness, they said, but I never believed it. It was too sudden, too convenient. Of course I couldn't prove it. Tears welled up in my eyes as I listened, my broken heart breaking further for Ahuna. After that, I couldn't stay, she said, her voice now trembling with quiet fury. I couldn't forgive my parents for what they did. So I left. I joined the war, hoping to make them regret ever trying to control my life. But the truth is, I don't know if they even care. I haven't spoken to them since, and Charlotte ... She's gone. There's nothing left but the memories. Really sad, but like, number one, I feel like this is just kind of an insane lore drop for a character we know nothing about. You know, like she's a general, she's black, she for some reason takes care of Collie, an undetermined reason that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like okay, whatever. The next morning, they're tying Collie back up so that they can turn her in again. Ahuna tells her to keep her head down. They need to believe that she's broken and defeated. They get to the other fortress, wherever the hell they are, and she's like, I caught the traitor again. Yay. She gets brought to the prison in the fortress and she finds Varna there. And Varna's like, at least we're not chained up like the last time. And then they hear the echo of footsteps, which is cutting through our reunion like a blade. Except it's not, because in the next chapter that doesn't even matter. Anyway, chapter 31. So the footsteps just keep on walking. So then they go back to having their little reunion. So that last sentence was stupid. Like, we need to get out of here, which I know is stating the obvious. But apparently Tannen and some of the other advisors are meeting later and she intends to be there when it starts and end thing. Varna's like, it feels like we've done this before. She's like, right, but this time it will actually work. And I don't know why. but okay. With a flicker of concentration, I summoned the magic within me, filling the air around me. The lock on my dungeon cell opened without a sound. After checking both directions down the long hall, I slipped out and freed Varna as well. Are you shitting me? She can open locks with her magic and she didn't do that before in any of the other fucking times she's been captured. Are you serious? I'm so serious. I'm so angry. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean? They get out. They're trying to be stealthy around to avoid the guards and be safe. Varna asks what the plan is for their meeting, and Collie's like, the element of surprise. And Varna's like, that's it? That's the plan? She's like, that, my magic, and a few tricks up General Ahuna's sleeves. Let's hope your magic is as good as your confidence, she said. And how are we going to find the meeting in the first place? Trust me, I replied, my smile fierce and wild. When it comes to sniffing out trouble, I'm your girl. Varna chuckled softly. Oh, I believe that. Yeah. I mean, she gets herself in trouble. She is the trouble. She is the problem. They hear two guards passing who are complaining. They're like, oh my god, Lord Tannen's got us on extra shifts because of the stupid meeting. We're pissed off about it. And they learn that it is in the Eastern Tower. And they're like, we wish we were stationed in the Eastern Tower because closer to the kitchens. Varna's like, how are we gonna get past the brigade in front of us? And Collie's like, distraction. With a flick of my hand and a mental nudge, the air around us shimmered. I summoned my magic and sent it dancing down the corridor like a mischievous spirit. Why?
This is the skin of a killer bone.
Why is the air sparkling like Edward Cullen? Edward Cullen, is that you? So they go to try and like chase down the stupid distraction, and we slipped into the resulting bedlam. So bedlam sticks out to me as anachronistic immediately because this world is not Earth, and the origin of bedlam is from Middle English, but it's referring to the Hospital of St. Mary of Bethlehem in London, used as an institution for the insane. So that word is a bad choice. I'm just saying. They hide in like an alcove and they squeeze themselves into what is described as a small recess in the wall because they're still trying to sneak into where Tannen and the other people are going to be. To get to the Eastern Tower, we would need to cut across the training yard, so we made our way there. A light wind blew across it, carrying the scent of freshly turned earth and steel. We hunkered close to the wall behind the straw dummies and targets, and I kept my steps light, my senses on high alert, while Varna's shadow flitted beside me. They accidentally fall into like a tunnel that was camouflaged in the ground. However, they just get themselves out and they don't use this. This doesn't come up again, so it was really stupid to include this because it just wasted our time. I mean, it helped them hide from the soldiers, I guess, but they weren't really having a problem with that right at that moment, so it was really dumb. It was really dumb that this tunnel doesn't mean anything. We dashed across the training yard without unintentionally finding more secret tunnels. As we burst through another door, a voice drifted from around the corner. It cut through the stone walls, sharp as a blade and twice as commanding. Let me into the meeting. I demand to see Commander Tannen. This is madness and you know it. Collie says, Varna, wait. And then she's like, that's Legacy's voice. Chapter 32. So she steels herself to look to see if it really is Legacy, and it is. Legacy was here a foot or so away. She was alive and mostly okay, save for the ropes bound around her wrists behind her back. With shaky hands, I took her bracelet from my wrist and pressed it into her grasp. She froze, a tremble rippling up her blue and gold Montrose armor. But she gripped the bracelet so tightly that her knuckles turned white. I reached out with my dagger next and cut her ropes. The guards are still mad and like, for the last time, you don't get to dictate what happens around here. And instead she's like, I'm sorry, sure, whatever you say. They're like in shock because they're like, this is not Legacy, but okay. Collie and Varna are listening to the guards being like, what about the Montrose prisoner? And when they're like leaving, they're leaving Legacy and they're like, she'll be here when we get back because she's tied up. As soon as they're gone, Legacy whips around and is like, Collie, and they embrace. She's like, you were dead, I thought you were dead. And then Collie's like, you were dead, I received word that you offed yourself. And she's like, never, I would never do that if there was even a shred of a chance that you were alive. And Legacy's all like, are you sure you're not part cat, 9 lives and all that? And I'm like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Varna's like, I hate to break you two lovebirds up, but we're not exactly finished here. And then they're like, promise me you'll never die again. And I'm like, oh my god, shut up. So they get into that room with the people, and it's Tannen with other advisors from both Montrose and Caputo's sides, and high-ranked soldiers spun around in their seats around a long stone table, their eyes wide with chalk. So I don't understand why Ahuna didn't know about any of this if she's so high up, and there's a ton of other advisors and commanders and high-up soldiers. I don't know how Ahuna Huna didn't know about this. They could have explained it. They could have been like, well, she's way too trustworthy and follows the rules way too much. We can't let her know about it. But it's never explained. It's never explained. Kali's like, I smell treachery. And Tannen's like, oh, you just showed up right on time for your own execution. And she's like, you would never kill me. You need me alive. Why? Why? Because literally her abilities never really come into play. There's never really a reason as to why they desperately need her abilities. There's no, like, there could have been, but they don't ever explain it to you. It's stupid. They're fighting off soldiers left and right. Tannen and his advisors are trying to rush out like a side door. Varna makes like a shimmering wall that keeps Tannen and the members in while they're fighting the other guards because Varna had stolen a gauntlet, I guess. So Legacy calls out to Kali while she's like taunting Lord Tannen because she almost gets hit by a soldier in the blade, and Legacy is able to jump in front of her, and instead of that trope where it's like they get shot or they get hurt instead, she just does a shield, so it's really even more pointless. Like, we could have added another trope. It seems like you definitely don't have enough of those. By the way, tropes aren't bad. It's just like they are often done poorly because they're overdone and because people like don't try to bring anything new to these kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? I love me enemies to lovers. Don't get me wrong. I also like forced proximity. Just saying. Tannen and the advisors are able to escape, but then Kali's like, I'm actually not really worried about it because the Huna made it so there's only one way in and out of the fortress anyway. And I'm like, okay, so then why did Varna waste her fucking time? What was that about then? Legacy and Kali check on each other and like, are you okay? We're fine. Don't be so worried about me. If a whole crumbling fortress can't kill me, nothing can. Shut up. Shut up. I wanted to reply with something witty, something that would show how nonchalant I was about the whole nearly getting killed thing. Instead, I found myself reaching out, brushing a stray lock of red from her eyes, a simple touch that held all the confessions of my heart. I want a kiss, I said. Legacy grinned, a rare sight that I could wish upon if I weren't so damned captivated by its fleeting beauty. That can be arranged. They're making out, and then Varna's like, hey, look at this. Oh, whoops, sorry to interrupt. And they're like, it's fine, Varna. She found evidence, like a paper trail of the evidence of the dirty deeds that all these people committed with their fucking signatures and shit. And I'm like, we're expected to believe that these people who let this war go on forever for their own personal gain left a paper trail that was easily findable. I don't fucking believe you. I think that's insane. They leave and then they're almost there. Can't wait to see the look on Ahuna's face when she sees we survived our little reckless adventure, I say with a wry grin, and brought Legacy back to life. Shut up. See, I want to say something witty too. I want to find something witty and fun to say, but what is there to say about this? Garbage. Literal garbage. I wouldn't wipe my ass with this. This is probably gonna get me in trouble because I was literally seeing on TikTok people being super angry about this girl doing like a negative review, and I honestly think the only thing she did wrong was tag the author. I think that's rude. I block the authors whenever I do reviews because I don't want them to see it. I feel like it's not for them really, so like, and me addressing the author is like kind of a bit, you know, so like, I don't know. I just if this gets me in trouble, so be it. You read this and you tell me there was anything redeeming about it. She comes out, Ahuna is smiling and she's like, have I ever seen her smile before? And I'm like, that's just sad. That's just sad because you've been trying to be a class clown the entire time. You can't even get her to smile, not even a little chuckle. Depressing. Tannen has been captured. He was trying to flee like the coward he is. Huzzah. Varna's like, is it over or is it just the beginning? Smiling Legacy dropped her head to my shoulder. I chuckled and took her hand. Take your pick. We can do this. We have 3 chapters left. We can do it. We can do this. Chapter 33. So they didn't have to torture or do anything to get Tannen to talk. The mere threat of violence was enough to make him do it. The bigger challenge was getting him to stop talking. I don't want to hear that from you, of all people, when you never shut the hell up. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Some of the war's advisors on both sides, including Tannen, had thought that by stealing magic and stealing me, since I didn't need gauntlets and could sniff out magic, he and the others would have power of their own. If the war stopped, they would have far less power over the royalty who looked to them for answers when it came to magic. The magic itself was an afterthought, something that infuriated me to no end. Tannen and his co-conspirators had stored the stolen magic in the abandoned building, not expecting me to sniff it out, and had rigged the magic with fuses in case someone accidentally stumbled upon the building. Magic was a struggle for most mages to find, and as far as I knew, I was the only one with magic in my veins rather than harvested from the land and channeled through gauntlets. It was the height of selfishness for them to hoard it all on their own. We're learning where the magic comes from at 89% of the way through the fucking book. Are you shitting me right now? The other thing that I don't understand is, with all the kidnapping and all the stupid war crap and all the other whatever, they didn't think of the most obvious fucking thing, which was to make her and Varna actually like them, to promote them within their own whatevers, and then get them to sniff out the magic for them so that they could continue to harvest it from the land, and then nobody would have questioned why they're doing all this, why the war keeps going on. Like, it at least would have taken a lot longer. I don't understand. Like, Holly is desperate for attention. They could have given her all the attention she would ever want, and they could have all the magic. I don't understand why they're doing it this way. I don't understand it. I don't understand anything about this. Legacy has like a necklace on, and Kali is like, I've never seen you wear this before, and she's like, I don't have a choice, it won't come off. She's like, we'll talk to Ahuna about it later to try and get it fixed. They are going with Ahuna to talk to the Caputo Queen about Tannen's treachery. Again, the monarchy wasn't mentioned until the last 20% of the book, or less. So I don't understand. Like, I didn't think there was a monarchy. The sooner we were in front of my queen and then Legacy's in the Montrose Kingdom, the better chance we had of stopping the war. Okay, if they're the ones who control the war, I don't know why the war is still going on. Like, what did they have to gain from this? We don't learn. Like, why were they still going? I don't know. So the queen is like, why is one of my generals detaining one of my other people, advisors, whatever. We're losing the plot now because they said advisor, commander, lots of things. I don't know what means what in this scenario. And she's like, and why is one of my enemies in the throne room? Like, this is crazy. Kali explains the entire thing. General Ahuna kind of like pops in her opinion on some things, apparently. The queen is furious by the time they finish, surprisingly. From here, it was easy to see that she was a ruler. This was the type of woman who could end wars, who could have a man killed with a simple wave of her hand. That's because she is queen, not because of how she acts. What the hell are you even on about? Tannen tries to defend himself and be like, well, if I didn't do this, like, our kingdom would fall apart, like, yada, yada, yada. And the queen is like, you think you have the authority to make those decisions? I don't fucking think so. She just, like, gets sick of listening to him after a while and waves her hand to have the guards seize him and take him away. The queen then turns to them and is like, what are we gonna do with you two? Talking about Kali and Legacy. She's like, you have dragged one of my finest, most trusted advisors here in chains and accused him of a sin akin to treason, she continued. You, a battle mage in my army, and you, an enemy who stands in my throne room as if you have a right to be here. But she's not a battle mage in your army, because she said she's not. So, whatever. Your Highness, we only did what we had to do for the good of the kingdoms, both kingdoms. Legacy has been instrumental in discovering the plot that has allowed the war to go on for so long. I could not have done it without her. She deserves your gratitude, not your ire. And then Legacy decides to put in her fucking input too, because this is apparently not an adult book, it's a Disney special. Yes, we are enemies, but I have found Kali to be intelligent and kind, not to mention loyal. It took a while, but we realized that we had the same goal in mind, ending this war. I could not have done it without her, and I do not seek your gratitude. I only want to live in peace once this war is over. Why do you think she cares, bro? Why do you think she cares? Because I don't, and I know for a fucking fact she doesn't care. If Kali is intelligent and kind, what does that have to do with her? What does that have to do with any of her decisions? It's so stupid. Sincerely, stupid and annoying, honestly. Anyway, the queen is like, well, Kali, you need to stay here in case I need you, and then turns to Legacy, but before she can even say anything, Kali is like, I'm not leaving Legacy, so I'm either your guest or we're both in the dungeons. And the queen, for some reason, is like, as you wish, you'll both be my guests. I don't know why, but okay. Chapter 34. They're both fully dressed to get ready to go, but they're curled together on Legacy's bed. They've been enjoying not being prisoners in a fortress for once and just hanging out. Kali decides to bring up that she doesn't know why Legacy was at Tannen's fortress that night. She says she had a vision about the meeting. She arrived a few days before the meeting, but he wasn't there, and she was like screaming her head off about it, and the guards were like, if you surrender yourself peacefully, we will make sure you can talk to him. And by talk, you mean make him run away from 3 little girls. She laughed, the most perfect sound in the world. That wasn't what I had planned, but I'd say it worked out quite nicely. Agreed. I pressed my lips to her cheek. Ew. Anyway, they're getting in a caravan to go to the Montrose Kingdom with the queen of the other one, the one with the C, I'm losing my marbles here. I don't care anymore. Caputo's, I think. They're all together waiting to talk. They're all together for like the first time in years. The king is like, so you two discovered the treachery that was happening on both sides. How interesting. And they're like, yes, the war is over now. Just so we're all clear. Even better, Legacy and I had been officially pardoned of all of our crimes by both of our kingdoms. Ahuna had nominated us both for Medals of Valor. Things were finally beginning to calm down and I couldn't be happier to finally not have to look over our shoulders or worry about nearly being killed at every opportunity. You shouldn't be nominated for Medals of Valor because you're not in the military. Remember? You're not in the military. Whatever. The king is like, we want to give you something to reward you. We'll give you whatever you want. And they just say that they want freedom. They're like, now that the war's over, we don't want to fight anymore. We don't want to do any of that. We want to be left to our own devices. And then her queen says, I believe that we can do much better than that. And they offer them both like lands and titles to be nobility. And Collie's like, could our lands and holdings be close together? And they're like, well, we can arrange that. But for now, you're free to go. They said until then, you're completely free to stay at the castle if you want, but like you're totally free to go. As they're leaving, she catches a glimpse next to the Caputo queen of someone with like long black hair, and it's Varna, looking very beautiful now. Surprise, Varna is the Caputo princess. Why they weren't searching everywhere when she went missing, why no one knew she was missing, I couldn't tell you. Because this book doesn't know. She winks at Collie and Collie's mind is just reeling. I hadn't done any of this for a reward and yet I'd gotten everything I could dream of and more. We would never have to worry about having enough to eat or a place to stay. With our lands, we could help others as well. But most importantly, we had each other. I wasn't sure what that meant yet, but we had the rest of our lives to figure it out. I couldn't wait. Chapter 35. We're really close, guys. I promise. I promise, I promise, I promise. So they stay at the Montrose Castle for a while until they are summoned back to the Caputo Castle, specifically to the library. This entire chapter is really dumb and it's just about removing the necklace that is on Legacy because it was what allowed her not to be tracked. It takes like most of the chapter for them to get the thing off. They're trying all kinds of different magical things, including magical shears, until Ahuna does like this old-timey spell and it actually works. And Legacy at the end is all like, let's never do that again. And Collie is like, never, because now they're finally free for real. She was free, we were free, and it wasn't just the absence of that amulet, it was the chains of war around our hearts dissolving into nothing but love. What about all those guys you killed, Collie? Remember them? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Chapter 36, last chapter, let's go, let's go. It's several months later. They are all meeting up at an inn, at like a bar in an inn to meet up with Varna to ask her all kinds of questions. They're like, you have some explaining to do. And she's like, oh, that, right. I've developed a taste for adventure and I'm allergic to corsets, she laughed. It's good to see you both outside the confines of war. Collie still doesn't understand why like the dungeons and the capture, like why Varna, why? I never much cared for being a princess, Varna began, her voice low. Not in the way my mom and the court wanted me to, at least. My place in this war, ... well, let's just say I took matters into my own hands. By willingly walking into enemy clutches, I asked? Yeah, she wanted to see what conditions the prisoners were being kept in with her own eyes, and also only there, according to her, could she gain the intelligence she needed. I don't believe this, but okay. Sometimes a cage can reveal more than a throne ever could, and from within those cages, I learned truths that changed the war. You unruly princess, I muttered. Shut up. Why are we trying to act like this is a Disney special? Collie asked Legacy if she knew about this, and Legacy's like, no. No, I was just trying to fight my sudden powerful feelings for you, but instead I did something nice. Ew. Varna says that General Ahuna knew, and she's like, I think she was the only one, and Collie's like, of course she knew. I hadn't heard from Ahuna in a while. Without the war, what would she do? Who would she be? Just a high mage or more than that? I should send her a note to let her know I was thinking about her. This is the closest person you have to a mother and you haven't talked to her in several months. Okay, especially after like that crazy lore drop about her, I just think you're a terrible person. You're a terrible person who doesn't care about anyone but yourself. I said what I said. She's like, you've got guts, Varna. And Varna's like, bravery or sheer foolishness? I'm not entirely sure. They're talking about how her selflessness is the kind that legends are made of, and she's like, legends don't scar this easily, yada yada. Then they're like, toasting to legends. May they keep scarring, keep fighting, and keep winning. Yay. Collie gets like drunk drunk while they're hanging out, and Legacy's like, sorry, I think I gotta take her home because oh my god. But before that, they're all talking about like how they should help people after the war and like make a effort to help regular people, which is nice, but like I don't really care about it. They're on the way home, they're talking about how like they're gonna plan the details later, and Collie is like, we'll iron out the details but minus the ale, like so that we can focus. And Legacy is like, it wasn't the ale that made me lose my focus. Legacy muttered on our way out, it was you. They walk home, they pick Collie's house because their houses are right next to each other to go into this night. Get freaky. I hope that Legacy is also wasted, but it doesn't seem like it, so this feels very, very gross. Just saying. So we're just gonna go over the gross highlights of the things that I feel like are repeated or are stupid. The apex of my thighs, repeated to death in these kinds of books. Heated core, also repeated to death but also gross. Her mouth descending upon my throbbing center. It shouldn't be throbbing. I don't like that word. My hips bucking involuntarily. Yep. Same shit, different day. None of these authors think of any other words to use, even though we have a huge dictionary that would allow you to think of other words. It's called a thesaurus. Maybe you should look into it, okay? Anyway, they get down and dirty until everyone's done. They confess that they love one another to each other again, and that's the end. That's the end, thank God. All right, I'm gonna pull up my page bound. You should check out my page bound. I have like fun reviews, but also like in process notes because I really love page bound. It feels like, I'm not sponsored, obviously. I only have 100 followers, but like, it's like really fun to me because it's kind of like Reddit and Facebook and Goodreads all had a baby, and it's just all books all the time. I really like it. But I want to read my review because I feel like that's the best conclusion that we're gonna have. So I gave this book 1 star. I feel that might have been generous. However, I think I gave Tris 6 Venom like 0.75, and it doesn't feel right to rate anything quite that low unless it's truly worse than Tris 6 Venom. And this was in a lot of ways, but also wasn't in many. So here are my final thoughts. I'm just gonna read from my page bound, okay? This is one of the worst books I've read in a long time. The main character is insufferable to the point where it's unbearable. Being trapped in first-person POV with her was torture. The magic was so underdeveloped it was crazy, but it still somehow managed to do way more heavy lifting than it should have been doing. We go from one kidnapping to the next, and it just gets so boring. And that's not even touching on the fact that the narrative constantly contradicts itself. They keep saying she's a battle mage, and then it says she's not in the military. Why would a general be allowed to bring someone unvetted into the military, into highly classified meetings? It doesn't make any sense. And don't get me started on the romance. There was no chemistry, and like everything else in this book, it felt underdeveloped and rushed. This was supposed to be a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but I'm not sure the author has ever read that play. There was nothing redeeming about this book to me. If I didn't make book content, I would be throwing my tablet out the window. Yeah, did you guys know that this was supposed to be Romeo and Juliet? I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I saw like a different review of someone saying that, and it was like more than one person. Like I wanted to see the high star ratings for this book because I cannot comprehend how anyone liked it that much. Like good for you if you did, I guess, but I can't relate. So like anyway, that's my ending thoughts for Cursed by Malignant Magic. It was rough. It was really rough. Hopefully next week will be Collateral Damage. I'm not sure yet though, simply because of how long it is. You will still get a video no matter what, always on Fridays. Hopefully, sometimes they run a little late, but usually at least one a week, okay? If you made it this far, leave like a magic wand or something, or a wizard in the comment section. Please tell me if you've read this book, if you've read any books like this book. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. We got to over 100 before the end of the year. I'm so grateful. Thank you guys. That really means a lot to me. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!